Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching a movie on what if Kid Naruto was trained by Fugaku in secret. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
4. Year. Old Naruto was wandering aimlessly through Konoha. He had never had any parents, siblings, or other family members. He avoided meeting the vile stares of his fellow Konoha residents by merely looking down as they focused their glares on him. Then, as a man with an angry expression on his face threw a bottle over his head, bringing him to the ground, he broke free from his self-loathing. He growled, "You fucking brat," as he turned to face a distraught and bleeding Naruto. "Why did you have to be born? Why couldn't you just die and leave us decent folk in peace?" he growled, and the other locals started yelling and throwing things at Naruto. Unaware that he had 3 Tomo locked onto him, Naruto fled the scene as quickly as he could, hurt and afraid. When he eventually got away from the group of people bothering him, Naruto stopped running and entered a forest. From what he could recall, he had been insulted, spat on, and even kicked or hit occasionally. He detested both of them. He was crying aloud about his terrible circumstances when he heard someone land in front of him. When the man who had just materialized looked older, had shoulder-length brown hair, onyx colored eyes, and a stern expression on his face, Naruto was initially terrified. He had a strange symbol on the left sleeve of his black long-sleeve shirt, and he was wearing a ninja flak jacket. The man uttered the words, "Bunch of fools," with such a deep, authoritative voice that Naruto shuddered. Naruto asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you?" and grew frightened when the man reached behind his back. Just as he was ready to bolt, he noticed the man take out a small medical kit. The man approached Naruto and started to clean and bandage the wound on his head, saying, "Don't be afraid, boy. It's a damn shame," he started as he finished, turning to face Naruto. "You're like me and my clan. Feared and hated because of ignorance and bigotry." Naruto gave him a wide-eyed stare. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, still tense despite his lack of fear. "Why am I hated?" The old man sighed and said, "I asked him so many times, and he never gave me an answer." Naruto said. Naruto shuddered as the man said, "That Hokage of ours is a naive fool," as he knelt down again and met Naruto's eyes. "I can tell you why you're hated. But you must promise to keep it a secret, otherwise I'll be killed," the man added. After a moment of silence as he considered whether or not to listen to the man, Naruto made up his mind and said, "Tell me," with a determined expression on his face. The man's eyes blurred to red with an odd pattern in the center, and he spoke the word, "Tsukuyomi," while locking eyes with Naruto. It only took 3 seconds for the jutsu to end, as both Naruto and the man blinked. However, it took hours for Naruto and the man, as the man revealed to him the truth hidden within the genjutsu he had created. With wide eyes, Naruto sat down. Was he the one holding the 9 tails? Was he the 4th Hokage's son? Then he clenched his fists in anger, asking himself why he was living in a dilapidated apartment, why everyone hated him despite the fact that he was housing a destructive monster, and why his father had chosen to sacrifice his own son for a village that had come to despise him. The revelations caused Naruto to start crying and sob. The man then grabbed and held him. Naruto was quieted. He had never before been held or shown compassion or empathy. "Naruto," the man said as he broke off contact, "go to the Hokage and ask him one more time why you're hated." He turned around and started to leave. "If he lies to you again, then I leave it to your judgment," he said. He then stopped and turned around, saying, "I'll be waiting here for you tomorrow so we can talk about your next move," before vanishing into a whirlwind of leaves. The Hokage's workspace. As usual, Hiruzen was working on paperwork when he heard a knock at the door. "Come in," he said, not wanting to entertain guests. However, his mood quickly changed when he saw young Naruto enter. With a happy tone, Hiruzen said, "Naruto, my boy. What brought you here?" Before grinning. His smile vanished when he saw how furious Naruto appeared, and he became worried when he failed to address him as an old man or declare that he was going to take the Hokage position. Hiruzen was uneasy when Naruto addressed him as Lord Hokage, because he had never been addressed by that title before. "Why am I hated and who are my parents?" he asked in a direct and concise manner. Hiruzen let out a sigh, understanding why Naruto was posing these queries. Then he saw Naruto turn around and approach the door. Naruto, I've told you before I can't tell you who your parents were and I. He started. Naruto paused for a moment, then cast a very different, icy gaze on Hiruzen than his usual warm blue ones. As he left the room, Lord Hokage, Naruto uttered the words, I think we are done here. Don't come to see me anymore, don't give me any help and stay out of my life. Hiruzen closed his eyes and put his head in his hands, stunned beyond belief that Naruto would act in such a way. As Hiruzen turned to face the door Naruto had just left, he thought, I'll talk to him in a few days. I'm sure he'll calm down enough for me to explain it to him, he reasoned. However, he was unaware that this would be his final encounter with Naruto for a long time. The following day, Naruto walked back to the spot he met the man the day before. A few seconds later the man came out from the shadows and spoke. Did you speak to him? He asked, to which Naruto nodded. And what do you think of him now? He asked as Naruto looked at him with cold eyes. I hate him for lying to me. He could die for all I care. I also hate this village. I don't belong here and I'll never belong here, Naruto said, shaking with rage until the man placed his hand on his shoulder. The man nodded. I can hide you from them, he said, to which Naruto started looking hopeful. I can make you strong. I can give you a reason to exist. All you have to do is pledge your loyalty to me and become my apprentice, he finished as Naruto looked stunned. Naruto had been alone his entire life, but now he had someone who genuinely wanted to help him, was honest with him, and only needed him to say yes. I agree, Naruto declared, giving the determined looking boy a sly smile. He got to his feet, turned on his Sharingan, and spoke in a commanding voice. You can refer to me as Master Fugaku or Master, but my name is Fugaku Uchiha. Fugaku said, understood, to the boy's frown and bow. Yes, Master, Naruto said. Fugaku then put his hand on his shoulder and the two disappeared in a swirl of leaves. After 4 years. Walking back to their root base just outside of Konoha were Danzo Shimura and his two bodyguards, Fu and Torun. Danzo was pleased that everything was going according to plan. His suspicions were beginning to grow as the Uchiha clan's mistrust grew daily and they were getting closer to pulling off a coup. Danzo viewed his as a win-win situation, as he could eliminate the disruptive clan and acquire the Sharingan to advance his objectives. Lord Danzo, Fu interrupted, drawing the Warhawk's attention, saying, we should. As a kunai embedded itself in his temple, causing him to fall forward lifeless. Torun and Danzo assumed combat stances in preparation for fending off their ambusher. After Torun was beheaded, Danzo did not hesitate to reveal his prosthetic arm, which had 10 Sharingan implants, by taking off the bandages on his right arm. Then, as Danzo turned to face him intently, a small, masked figure materialized in front of him. So it was you, Shimura? The figure asked, taking a fighting stance and brandishing his ninjutsu in front of him. You are the one who has been killing and robbing the Uchiha clan, the figure stated. Danzo charged at the figure and unleashed a fire jutsu, saying, I don't know who you are, but you're a fool for trying to fight me. When he cancelled the jutsu, he saw that the figure was still there and motionless. As the figure stabbed him in the back, Danzo thought, an after image. He then withdrew his sword and stepped back to find Danzo unharmed, his one Sharingan now closed. The figure introduced himself as Izanagi, which startled Danzo. A forbidden jutsu even among Uchiha. How despicable, the figure continued, creating image after image of himself. Unable to follow his opponent, Danzo felt a blow to his right arm and looked down to see 2 of his Sharingan destroyed. 3 down, the person behind Danzo stated. 6 more to go, the figure said, advancing through the hand signs, fire style, furball jutsu, before blasting a stream of fire at Danzo through the mosque's mouth slit. In order to defend himself from the fire attack, Danzo built a wall of mud. However, as he was dragged waist deep into the earth, he felt his feet being grabbed. The figure then leapt away and slashed one more of Danzo's Sharingan, followed by a decapitation, as he approached the imprisoned Danzo over the wall. The figure then pivoted to face an enraged Danzo. The figure said, 5 down, 4 more to go, just before he was struck from below by a sharp wooden object. Danzo came over to him, and he was flung back with a horrible gash to his stomach, moaning in agony. The figure on his right was an afterimage, and Danzo called him a foolish boy, before taunting, you should. He started, but was suddenly stabbed from both sides, revealing that his stomach was healing at a startling rate. The figure started to say, if you're gonna kill someone, don't stand over him and gloat. He hunched over slightly in pain and said, "If it weren't for my condition, I would defiantly be dead right now," as Danzo, who was now looking nervous, wondered what was going on. Danzo thought to himself, "Who is he? He made me use Izanagi 3 times and destroyed 3 of my Sharingan." As he prepared for another attack, he assumed a fighting stance and said, "I better capture or kill him. He cannot be free after all he's seen." Danzo started to construct an increasing number of wooden objects, which his masked ambusher evaded. Danzo started to experience weariness since using the wood style was greatly depleting his chakra. When the figure saw Danzo start to waver, he decided to take a risk and charged at him, swinging his sword. He was rewarded with the sound of Danzo screaming as his right arm was severed at the joint where flesh and prosthetics met. The figure placed his foot on Danzo's chest and sealed the severed arm in a scroll while Danzo was on the ground screaming. "You were just the start," the figure stated, raising his sword to cut down. Danzo made a pointless gesture with his left arm. He only uttered the word, "Wait," as the sword pierced his skull and became embedded in the earth. The ambusher then waited, keeping an eye on Danzo and scanning the area, to make sure he was dead. Once he was certain it was over, he left, leaving 3 dead bodies for the scavengers. Outside the Uchiha compound. After concluding another clan meeting regarding the impending coup that is scheduled to occur in a month, Fugaku happened to stumble upon a small house that appeared to be out of the way while strolling by himself on the edge of the Uchiha compound. He sat in the chair next to the fire when he entered and noticed that it was lit. He commanded the shadows to report before a masked figure emerged and bowed before him. The figure declared, "Danzo and his 2 bodyguards are eliminated. I also found info that proves your suspicions that Itachi and Shisui are clan spies." He said, they plan to support Konoha in order to avert the coup, to which Fugaku sighed. "I'd hoped that wouldn't be true," feeling that Itachi and Shisui should have remained faithful to the clan rather than a village that appeared to be isolating them. Fugaku remarked, "We will deal with them soon enough." "Did you retrieve the lost Sharingan?" Fugaku inquired, and the masked figure nodded before giving him the scroll holding Danzo's arm and the 3 Sharingans that were still alive. "Well done," he said to the object. The figure turned to leave, saying, "If that's all, Master Fugaku, I'll be going," but Fugaku stopped him by placing his hand on his shoulder. He uttered the words, "Take off your mask," as Naruto did, calling himself Naruto, in a sympathetic voice that only his wife had ever heard. The past few years had been a blur of intense training, book missions, and eliminating those who pose a threat to the Uchiha clan. Naruto's face had become cold and blank, and he hadn't smiled in years. His long, blonde hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and he was wearing a blank Anbu mask, a chestplate, and a black bodysuit. Fugaku said, "Naruto, you have been faithful to me since I started training you all those years ago." Naruto stared at him blankly as usual, but he said, "You never disobeyed me or questioned my orders. You are everything I wished Itachi was or what Sasuke could be. I hope you will join the Uchiha clan and become my son once everything is said and done and we restore the Uchiha clan to its rightful place of honor." "My real son," Fugaku remarked. With time, Fugaku began to view Naruto more as a surrogate son than as a tool or apprentice since Sasuke wasn't living up to his standards and Itachi had become distant from both him and the clan. But his pride and joy was Naruto. He raised the boy from nothing to a level nearly equal to that of an Anbu, and although he was kept a secret from everyone but a select group of people, the clan would embrace him warmly once the coup was successful. Trying not to cry, Naruto struggled. He saw Fugaku as a father figure after initially viewing him as a master and a role model. He never expressed his feelings to Fugaku since he believed the man wouldn't be interested, but when he heard his master utter those words, he almost started crying. However, he composed himself and spoke in his typical flat tone. Naruto put on his mask and continued, "We still have a long way to go, Master, but once this is over, I would be honored to call you father." "Excellent," Fugaku replied. "To give you an advantage, tomorrow morning come to the hidden chamber and I'll have Tetsuo transplant one of those Sharingans into your right eye." As Naruto bowed, he said, "I'll also give you some material to use to learn how to use it as well." "Yes, Master," Naruto uttered before vanishing into a whirlwind of foliage. Fugaku closed his eyes and said, "Be safe, my son," as he put on his mask of indifference and made his way back to the compound's center after extinguishing the fireplace fire. As the Uchiha clan council discussed their plans for a coup, Fugaku was seated, and his oldest son Itachi, who had just returned from his Anbu duties, was to his right. He was aware that the third Hokage and the recently deceased Danzo had planted a plant in his son. After 2 weeks, Danzo's root had silently broken up. About a dozen of the members deserted and went rogue, while the majority of them killed themselves because they believed they had failed their master. The coup is supposed to take place in 2 weeks, and you still haven't told us how you intend to wrestle power away from the Hokage or how you intend to keep the other shinobi from stopping us, Fugaku, a Uchiha elder said in response, grabbing his attention. The rest of the council agreed. The council became perplexed and concerned when Fugaku calmly reassured them, saying, "Trust me, you will know it when you see it. And trust me, it will get everyone's attention." There was a mole, and only a few people knew about Naruto, so Fugaku was unable to inform them of his plan to use Naruto and his burden. The only people who knew about Naruto were Fugaku, Makoto, and the family physician Tetsuo. Makoto was more than happy to keep the boy a secret. Because Naruto was the late friend Kushina's child, Makoto tried for years to adopt him but was turned down by the Shinobi and Civilian Council. This made her distrust the village even more, as they did not want to give the Uchiha clan a valuable asset. In addition, Fugaku went on, "We need to be concerned about the Shinobi Council. In particular, the clans of Hyuga, Inuzuka, Nara, Akamichi, and Yamanaka, as they will fight to the death to prevent us from becoming powerful." The council nodded in agreement. A council member questioned, "Well, what do you have in mind?" To which Fugaku responded, "The Hyuga will be the most difficult because the Hyuga Council will still be an issue even after Hiyashi is killed. During the coup, we will kill the clan heads and leave them in a position of power vacuum. Thus, we'll get rid of them too," he declared, shocking the council, prompting a response from another member. He asked, "What about the Aburame clan?" And Fugaku responded once more, "We will bring the Aburame clan closer to us and form an alliance once we take power because they have endured years of discrimination due to their use of insects. Shibi Aburame is a rationalist, so he will understand," he said, and the council, wary of other clans, reluctantly nodded. When Fugaku declared, "This will be enough talk for today. I call this session to a close," everyone stood up and departed. Fugaku turned to Itachi as they were leaving and said, "Itachi, how are you doing with your eavesdropping on the Hokage?" He said, "Is he wary of our clan?" To which Itachi shook his head. "No, he is not suspicious in the slightest," Itachi told a flat out lie, and Fugaku nodded. Itachi bowed and said goodbye as Fugaku said, "Good, keep your eyes and ears open." With a sorrowful thought, Fugaku concluded, "Itachi, so much potential was wasted on a village instead of your own clan." He then left to attend to his other responsibilities. Alongside Makoto. Makoto was now walking into her late friend Kushina's home. She and her husband had lived there briefly before passing away. It appears to be an abandoned building from the outside, but once you pass the gate, the genjutsu disappears and you can see that the house has been kept relatively well, thanks to Minato's seals. Over time, Makoto developed a deep hatred for Minato because he had sealed the demon inside Naruto and turned his childhood into a nightmare because of the villagers he was guarding. When the door opened and Makoto knocked, Naruto was there, his normally expressionless, frigid face breaking into a small smile. Makoto giggled as Naruto formally said, "Lady Uchiha, what do I owe the pleasure?" She said, "Naruto, you've known me for 4 years already. You can call me Makoto." Naruto laughed in response. "Oh, Makoto, how are you doing?" Naruto asked as he opened the door and let her in. "So, is this a business visit or no?" Makoto replied, pulling out a scroll that revealed 4 sealed bowls of ramen, which provided the answer to Naruto's query. Naruto said, "Sai, Shin, you can come out. It's just lad." Makoto, as the two boys emerged from the shadows. Shin was grinning, and Sai was flashing that same phony smile that seemed to be growing more real by the day. Shin said, "Welcome, Ms. Makoto." "Gratitudes, Lady Uchiha," Sai uttered, still getting used to having guests who weren't native. The day after Danzo's death, Sai and Shin left route because no one was left to give commands. Until they came across Naruto, they both sought to track down and kill the person who had killed their master. Using his words rather than force, Naruto was able to talk down the boys and persuade them to come home with him. Makoto was waiting for them, preparing them a home cooked meal and giving them attention. After winning them over with these small favors that their membership with Root had denied them, they went on to form an alliance with Naruto over the course of the previous 2 weeks. Naruto then informed Fugaku, who was taken aback by Naruto's use of diplomacy. Upon meeting the boys, Fugaku assured the two brothers that they would receive a house, money, and the opportunity to lead a normal life as rewards for helping Naruto in his pursuits. The offer was too good to refuse, so they took it. Makoto sat down at the table with the three boys and said, "Okay boys. Let's eat up." As the four started to eat the bowls of noodles, she chirped. 2 hours later, as usual, Shin would drag Sai to a manga store, and Sai would then take Shin to an art supply store so that they could look through the various art supplies. Sai and Shin had never been free to stroll around the village. Makoto was happy to be left alone with Naruto because she enjoyed spending time with her secret son. Currently, Makoto was petting Naruto's hair while he rested his head on her lap. After years of not receiving any physical expressions of love, Naruto was enjoying the merest displays of affection. For Naruto, nothing was more meaningful than an embrace, a kiss on the forehead, or an occasional day out with her hanged as Fugaku or Sasuke. Makoto said, "Naruto," in a worried, quiet voice that Naruto could not help but notice. Sitting up and glancing at her, Naruto replied, "Yes, Makoto. I know having a master is important, but you take it too far. Why are you so devoted to Fugaku?" She said, "I'm wondering why you said so many times that you would die for him and his ambitions?" To which Naruto froze. Naruto was surprised that Makoto brought up such a subject because, for the most part, she would ask how Naruto was doing or talk about herself. "He saved my life," Naruto exclaimed, glancing up at the ceiling. "He sees value in me, he doesn't see me as a monster or a weapon, he helped me hide from Konoha for all these years. He's more than a master to me. He's a father figure," Naruto continued, meeting Makoto's eyes. Makoto gasped as he said, "He even wants me to join the clan after the coup." Fugaku had never brought this up to her before. "When all this is over, I can call him father and you mother," he concluded as Makoto held him tightly and tears streamed down her cheeks. "I will help him bring the Uchiha to its rightful glory, and if I die in the process, then so be it. It's the least I can do for all he's given me," he said, shocking Makoto. She kissed Naruto's forehead and said, "I would love that. Please don't die. I only recently got you and I don't want to lose you anytime soon." She then gave him an elongated embrace that seemed to last forever. When nightfall arrived, Naruto was getting ready for bed while Shin and Sai had already fallen asleep. He grabbed a kunai and threw it at a picture of his father, Minato the fourth Hokage. Naruto crawled into bed and thought, "Bastard, you will never be my father. You are just some man who impregnated my birth mother." He closed his eyes and said, "Master Fugaku was more of a father to me than you," before falling asleep. Alongside Jiraiya and Hiruzen. "Jiraiya, you still haven't come up with anything," Hiruzen remarked, to which Jiraiya nodded and sighed. "The past few years have not been kind to the two. Aging shinobi," Jiraiya said, "I checked Iwa, Suna, Kumo, Taki, Kusa, even Wave Country. I haven't found no hind or hair of him." The villagers were in a frenzy when Naruto vanished because the people were relieved that the demon had finally vanished, but the shinobi were terrified because they had lost their most potent weapon. Hiruzen recalled the chaotic council meeting regarding the issue. Fugaku expressed displeasure that the Uchiha police force wasn't notified until much later in the search, claiming that had the notice been given to them earlier, they could have been able to locate Naruto. Hiruzen squeezed his nose and sighed. "Jiraiya, we have to keep looking for." Hiruzen started, but Jiraiya and two Anbu landed in front of him. Itachi and Shisui uttered, "Lord Hokage," in unison, and Hiruzen nodded to them. Itachi spoke up, and Hiruzen said, "Speak." Itachi stated, "Lord Hokage, my father is still going through with the coup in 2 weeks," while Hiruzen and Jiraiya nodded at their second major issue. Hiruzen rubbed his temples as Itachi said, "He plans on doing something to distract the village while he and a few other powerful Uchiha plan to take you down head-on." He asked, "What do you three think our course of action should be?" and Shisui raised her voice. The three of them turned to face him and said, "No casualties, no coup, and we can save the village from a possible civil war. If I am able to get the Uchiha Council in one area, I could use my Kotomatsukami and make them forget the coup," he continued. The three of them nodded. The three of them nodded as Hiruzen said, "Very well," glancing at Shisui. "The next council meeting you use your genjutsu and we deal with this problem. Then we refocus on finding Naruto." Shisui nodded and grinned as Itachi said, the next meeting is tomorrow to discuss clan finances. It will be late at night, so you will encounter no resistance. Fantastic. He said, now I have to go and get ready. Enjoy your date with Izumi. Itachi winked at his friend's antics, and Hiruzen began to perspire. Jiraiya let's. He started as soon as he realized Jiraiya had disappeared. He then turned to see Jiraiya bothering and enraged. Looking Itachi. Itachi's eye twitched, and Jiraiya said, come on kid, give me the details. If you let me use you too for my book, I promise you a fat commission. Without a word, Itachi disappeared into a group of crows, which made Hiruzen furious and Jiraiya laugh. Get your mind out of the gutter and let's find Naruto. Shouted Jiraiya, Hiruzen to his pupil. Jiraiya returned to work right away, and the two started attempting to ascertain Naruto's whereabouts. The following day, evening. Just as he was about to carry out his plan, Shisui was sprinting through the woods outside the Uchiha compound. In a few minutes, the coup will be over, and he and Itachi can concentrate on helping Jiraiya find Naruto. A hail of shuriken and kunai struck him as he was running, startling him. After dodging and landing on a tree, an ink tiger attacked him. After swiftly drawing his sword and destroying the creation, Shisui felt a force push back as he witnessed a figure emerge from it and lock blades with him, pushing him back. Because of the blank Anbu mask he was wearing, he was unable to determine the attacker's age, but he appeared to be no older than 9. Shisui heard 2 more land immediately behind him as he kicked his assailant away. Who are you? Shisui inquired as a figure emerged, his face concealed by a mask that left only his sleek, blonde hair visible. The figure drew his sword and prepared to strike, saying, who here isn't important. What is important is that we stop you here and now. The third boy advanced, his mask blank but revealing short black hair. To conceal Naruto's true identity, Sai said, Shin, Nagasumi. Get ready, this is going to be a difficult battle, he said, holding his scroll and brush ready to conjure more ink summons. Sai, copy that, Shin uttered while grinning behind his mask, eager to take on such a formidable foe. Oh no, Naruto uttered as he peeled back a portion of his mask to reveal his right eye. I guess I better use this, he continued, reaching up to remove a contact lens from his eye. Shisui was taken aback when the boy opened his eye and revealed a Sharingan. Although it was red and had 3 eyes, the pupil was not round. Rather, it had a vertical slit in the center. Shisui furiously questioned, how the hell did you get a Sharingan? While Naruto mocked. Naruto uttered the words, what does it matter to a dead man, as he and his 2 allies prepared to take on Shisui the teleporter, who may prove to be their hardest opponent yet. Shisui prepared himself for the onslaught he was about to face by activating his fully developed Sharingan and striking into a fighting stance. I can't fail here, he thought to himself as he looked at his 3 opponents. If I fail, then the village will fall. Sai was attacking Shisui from a long range, Shin was attacking him from a close range, and Nagasumi, Naruto, was deflecting Shisui's attacks with a wide variety of mid-range jutsu. Shisui was engaged in a 3-way battle with his attackers. His renowned body flicker technique is the only thing keeping him alive. The afterimages were preventing his attackers from hitting him directly, but that wasn't going to last. After swiftly going through all of the hand signals, Naruto spit out what appeared to be water, which hit the ground and missed Shisui and all of his afterimages. Shisui was startled to see that the water wasn't actually water, but rather a gel. Then he witnessed Naruto break through hand signals and shoot a tiny fireball at the water. A moment later, a massive fireball engulfed the entire covered area. Gazing at his creation, Naruto thought, combination jutsu, napalm firestorm. He was instructed by his master Fugaku to devise his own strategies to prevent the opposition from predicting his next move. He was inspired by the toad oil techniques and combined his second main affinity, water, with fire to create a flammable liquid. Although his fire jutsu isn't very strong, it can balance itself out when combined with either his wind chakra or napalm. Then Naruto witnessed Shisui emerge from the flames, his left leg severely burned. Shisui thought to himself, damn, I didn't expect that. If I didn't substitute at the last minute, that could have ended badly, just before he parried a blow from Shin's sword. Shin smiled and said, wow, this is fun, as Shisui moaned in pain. If we weren't enemies, we could have been great sparring buddies, Shin continued as he intensified his attacks and Shisui kicked him out. The Sai Kid's ink golem attacked him before he had a chance to gather his thoughts. Sai warned Shin not to talk too much, brother, as he created 2 more golems that attacked Shisui. After a tiring battle, Shisui cursed and thought, these are no ordinary kids. As he blocked another strike, he realized, they're at least high chunin to low junin, but then he felt a searing pain in his back. Upon realizing Shisui was preoccupied, Naruto mistakenly slashed his back, but not before Shisui grabbed Naruto's wrist, pulled him forward, and struck him in the mask with a pummel blow from his sword. Then Shisui struck Naruto, giving him a fleeting blow to the abdomen before backing away. When Shisui realized that his blow had broken the mask and revealed his attacker who had blonde hair, 1 blue eye, and 6 whisker marks, he became very excited. Naruto scowled as Shisui said, Naruto Uzumaki, with surprise. As he felt his wound heal, he stood up straight and said, I abandoned that surname a long time ago. Shisui recoiled at the young man's intense gaze. Naruto tilted his head in response to Shisui's question, saying, no, you are still Naruto Uzumaki. The Hokage has been looking for you. Where have you been? Why are you attacking me? Why do you have a Sharingan? He reverted to a fighting stance and exclaimed, why would I answer that? You know who I am, so you have to die. Then he charged forward. Alongside Sasuke. While he was practicing his fireball jutsu, Sasuke noticed a bright light emanating from the forest. He heard the sounds of metal hitting metal as he made his way to the location. He saw Shisui, the best friend of his brother, fighting 3 boys, a blonde, a black-haired boy with a mask, and a silver-haired boy with a maska while he was hiding behind a tree. He noticed one of the attackers preparing to strike Shisui from behind as he returned his attention to the fight. He kicked the boy and surprised the other 4 fighters by running as quickly as he could in a flash of instinct because they were unaware of his chakra. Sasuke, a startled Shisui uttered, what are you doing here? I was training, Sasuke replied. What are you doing here? Shisui then gave Sasuke a grunt and met his gaze. Sasuke's eyes widened as Shisui quickly revealed to him everything, including the coup, his father, and their attempts to stop it with Itachi. Sasuke, a terrified Shisui exclaimed, run to the Hokage. Warn him, taking hold of the boy and propelling him a considerable distance away. To alert the Hokage, Sasuke got up and started running as quickly as he could. Shit. Thought Naruto, as Shin nodded and started running after Sasuke. Shin, stop him. Don't let him reach the village, Naruto yelled. Naruto interrupted Shisui's attempt to stop him, saying, your fight is with me and Sai, as the 3 boys resumed fighting. Alongside Shin. Sasuke was running faster than Shin had anticipated, so Shin was attempting to catch up to him. I guess being scared really does make you run faster, Shin mused to himself as he finally saw Sasuke. Then Shin materialized before Sasuke. I was told to catch you, not kill you. Would you kindly? Shin beseeched Sasuke, pleading with him to give up. Then, as Sasuke fled once more, he avoided a barrage of kunai. If it's my last act, I'll warn Itachi and the Hokage, Sasuke cried as he vanished from view once more. Shin uttered the words, damn, can't make it easy on me, and leapt off once more to capture his target. Alongside Sai and Naruto. Shisui was huffing and growing tired. He had been using his Sharingan and body flicker technique for more than 15 minutes, and as a result, his chakra was low. After dodging an ink tiger that Sai was about to destroy with a slash, Naruto emerged from the animal and sliced Shisui across the chest, piercing through his armor and leaving an infected wound that hurt like a motherfucker but wasn't fatal. Naruto and Sai managed to avoid a huge fireball that Shisui unleashed by jumping away and passing through hand signals. After determining that the battle had gone on for too long, Naruto used hand signs, combined his chakra with the foxes, and got ready to strike. Combination style. Incineration of Firefox, as he blasted a massive flame in the shape of a ball toward Shisui. When the attack came, Shisui frantically called upon his flawed Susanoo to defend him, only to watch as his defenses began to crumble midway through the jutsu. Shisui was struck by the tail end of the fire jutsu as the barrier cracked, severely burning and impaling him as he fell to the ground. Breathing heavily, Naruto reached for his sword and approached Shisui. Standing over the severely burned Uchiha, he said, you know something, Shisui, to which Shisui listened in agony, you were always my idol. Then, as Shisui's head rolled across the floor, Naruto severed his head. He was so exhausted that he collapsed onto his knee. After thinking, holy shit, Naruto grabbed Shisui's severed head and put it on his body. He then sealed the body inside a scroll and got up, popping a soldier pill to replenish some of his lost chakra. Naruto was every bit the genius he was supposed to be. Naruto laughed and Sai said, "Let's go find Shin." "It's true that great minds think alike," Naruto remarked as he put on his spare mask and took off in the same direction as Shin and Sasuke. Alongside Shin. While Sasuke was frantically trying to flee, Shin was pursuing him, and no matter what he tried running, hiding, fighting it would not work because Shin would pursue him like a bloodhound. Desperately thinking, there has to be something I can do, Sasuke suddenly had an idea. He quickly darted into the trees, out of sight of Shin for a brief moment, but Shin noticed him stop and started speaking. He started, "You finally giving." But then Sasuke did something Shin never thought he would. Sasuke used a full powered fireball to strike Shin directly, declaring, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." Shin collapsed to the ground, suffering third-degree burns and a fully black front half. The boy coughed and moaned in pain, giving Sasuke a clear view of him. At the sight of the burned boy, Sasuke puked and started to cry. "I apologize, I'm so sorry," Sasuke mumbled under his breath as he turned and started to head toward the village. Sasuke had only taken 3 steps when he was struck in the back by a kunai, piercing his lungs as he fell to the ground, began to gargle, and began to drown in his own blood. As the world started to blur, one of Shin's lessons from Root came to mind. Don't ever turn your back on the enemy. Shin could no longer hear or see clearly, so he heard someone say, "WH. Hap. A holy shit." Shin heard Naruto and Sai's voices next to him and tried with all his remaining consciousness to listen. Sai's voice echoed in Shin's head, "Oh god no. God damn it Shin." Was Naruto's voice. Then Shin exhaled, realizing that although he was dying, at least he was with his brothers. Alongside Makoto and Fugaku. When they opened the door to discover a kunai with the kanji for fox on it, the matriarch and the head of the Uchiha clan were both enjoying tea when they heard a thunk at the door. Naruto was instructed by Fugaku to use this only in an emergency. Fugaku then turned to Makoto and said, "Grab the medical kit Naruto, Sai or Shin might be hurt bad." Makoto then ran to a closet and took out a scroll that contained a variety of first aid and medical supplies. Since Naruto's house was the agreed upon meeting place, they both bolted from the house at top speed in the dead of night. They ran to the door of Fugaku, ignoring the fact that it was locked, kicked it down, and looked around. It took them 5 minutes to reach the house after they had unlocked, entered, and reapplied the seal. Then he noticed Naruto sitting by himself and gazing skyward. As soon as Makoto and Naruto started to worry, Fugaku yelled at him and he turned slowly to face his master. "What happened?" he demanded. Silently, Naruto stood up and guided them to a storage room, where Makoto and Fugaku felt as though their souls and hearts had been torn out. Currently, Sai was holding the burned hand of his late brother Shin. The decapitated body of Shisui, with the head resting on his stomach, was next to him. And finally, there was the pale body of their son Sasuke. Makoto rushed to her son and embraced his body while crying. Fugaku, looking at Naruto with tears in his eyes, said, "What happened?" With a look of sorrow and bewilderment. "Shisui was going to try to stop the coup. I found that out through one of the bugs I planted in the Hokage's office. When Sai, Shin and I fought him, we were almost about to win until Sasuke came out of nowhere. Shisui used his Sharingan to relay what was happening and ordered him to go warn the Hokage. Shin chased after him on my orders to capture him. Sasuke hit Shin with a fireball and mortally wounded him. Shin used the last of his strength to kill Sasuke in order to prevent the Hokage from knowing that we know about his plans," Naruto said with tears in his eyes. Fugaku was devastated. His surrogate son had lost the only sibling he had left, and his second son had chosen the village over his clan. When Fugaku heard a button snap, he turned to see Naruto had taken out his kunai and was holding it to his throat. With tears in his eyes, Naruto uttered, "I failed you, master. Give me the order, and I'll kill myself in atonement." Makoto started to cry and hugged Naruto after giving him a slap on the hands, forcing him to drop the knife. Makoto shouted, "Don't you ever do that again. I lost Itachi and Sasuke to this damn village, and I don't want to lose my last son." She gripped Naruto even more tightly. Then, in an attempt to calm him down, Makoto held Naruto's head and stroked his hair while he started to cry into her breasts. Then, Fugaku approached Sai and placed his hand on his shoulder. "Let's give him a proper burial," he said, to which Sai nodded silently. Fugaku picked up Shin's body and carried him to the yard, where he buried him and created an earthen headstone using a basic earth jutsu. Then, he produced a kunai and handed it to Sai, saying, "I'll leave the inscription to you," to which Sai nodded once more. Re-entering the house, Fugaku thought to himself, "I gotta fix this." After several hours, with the aid of shadow clones, Fugaku created a scene that would buy him some time and diffuse the tension. He placed Sasuke's corpse in a location that was both easy and difficult to find. Fugaku perfectly portrayed the role of an emotional and furious father when Anbu discovered the body. Makoto, on the other hand, was still in shock, so her response was not staged in the slightest. Fugaku summoned the entire Uchiha clan for a head count. Shisui was the only person absent, having failed to return home the previous evening. Then, with outstanding acting, Fugaku invented the tale that Shisui must have killed Sasuke because he was not present. After the roll call, Fugaku dragged Itachi aside and made a demanding, irate noise. Itachi honestly responded to Fugaku's question, "You are Shisui's best friend. Where could he have gone to? Who might he be working for?" Itachi responded, "I don't know," much to his father's displeasure. In desperation, Fugaku questioned, "Has he been acting strange? Gone on a really bad mission? Had any kind of homicidal or suicidal thoughts?" Itachi shook his head in response. "No, father," he replied, causing Fugaku to exhale deeply. "I want you and our best detectives to investigate Sasuke's murder. I want you to track the Shisui down and have him in front of me and your mother in cuffs. You have 2 weeks or there will be consequences," Fugaku said, activating his Mangekyo Sharingan for emphasis. "The coup is cancelled," he said, as Itachi looked at him in shock. Itachi bowed and disappeared in a swirl of leaves, nodding nervously. "Little brother, I know Shisui didn't kill you, but I swear I'll find out who did and avenge you," Itachi thought as he made his way to the Hokage office. The coup may be over, but there is a bigger problem. If someone could take out Shisui, then that's a bigger problem, Itachi thought as a picture of a smiling Sasuke flashed through his mind. Using Fugaku. Both of the boys' expressions remained solemn as Fugaku stood in front of them. "Boys," Fugaku said, noticing that both boys were concentrating on the man. "Let me get right to the point," he said, glaring at Sai and Naruto as they turned to face him. While tragic, Sasuke's death has given the clan some breathing room, but there is now an opportunity. The Hokage will think the coup is cancelled due to the tragedy, so that's our window of opportunity, he continued, looking perplexed at Sai and Naruto. Fugaku sighed in response to Naruto's question, "What do you mean, master?" "During Sasuke's funeral we will trap the clan heads, council members and the Hokage all in one area and take them out in one fell swoop," he stated in surprise to the two boys. Sai inquired, "How long till the funeral?" With both boys staring at him with wide eyes, he replied, 3 days until the coup begins, 3 days until the Uchiha rises from the ashes, and 3 days until Naruto gets his revenge on the village that shunned and hated him." "Any objections?" he asked, to which Sai and Naruto exchanged nods. They both uttered, "No master," simultaneously. One day prior to the coup, outside the Hyuga compound. At the moment, Naruto was observing the Hyuga compound and researching Hiyashi Hyuga, his target. Naruto never liked the man because he was a blatant hypocrite and frequently claimed that the Uchiha were a tribe of barbarians. Very ironic coming from a man whose family members are enslaved by their clan. When Naruto heard crying coming from the woods behind him, he knew it was time to leave after finishing his study of the compound. He crept silently to the source of the crying and discovered 2 girls in tears. One seemed to be about Naruto's age, and the other couldn't have been more than 3. He heard them as he paid great attention to what they were saying. The younger girl called her older sister, big sister, and started crying. "I'm scared. What if the monster that hurt that boy comes for me?" she said. The older girl comforted Hanabi, saying, "Don't worry, Hanabi. The monster won't come for you." She was attempting to reassure her sister. Still terrified, Hanabi questioned, "But what if it does?" A voice frightened them both, saying, "Then your sister will protect you." They turned to see a boy with a blank Anbu mask on. The boy's handsome features, including his mismatched sapphire blue and black eyes, whisker like facial marks, and blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail, caused both girls to blush as he took off his mask. "You understand that a big sister's role is to protect her sibling?" he asked the older of the two sisters. The older sister looked away from the boys and said, "Correct," to which Naruto laughed. "But I'm small and weak, I don't know if I can." He looked up at the sky and said, "You can if you try hard and believe in yourself." "I was weak too, but I found something to fight for, and that made me strong." He then turned to smile softly at both of the girls. "May I know your names?" he inquired. Hanabi uttered, "H." Hanabi, hesitantly. The older sister uttered the word, "H." "Hinata." Then Naruto took out a piece of paper with a tiny seal on it from his pocket. He kneeled in front of Hanabi and explained, "This is an emergency seal. If you ever get into trouble, just put a little chakra into it and I'll come to you." He then handed Hanabi the paper. "A hero will always come to a princess's rescue," he said, kissing the young girl's forehead in imitation of Makoto. Hanabi giggled at being called a princess, even though it was mostly true. Then Naruto got up, and before he could go, Hinata yelled, "Wait," and as he turned around, she asked, "Who are you?" Naruto put on his mask with an introspective expression. Hinata blushed at the title, "But I'm just Anbu Lady Hinata," he said. "Oh, and please don't say you saw me. My master would be upset if he found out I talked to girls instead of doing my job," he added, getting the girls to nod and swear confidentiality. The two girls exchanged glances before turning to examine the paper he had given them as he vanished amidst a whirl of leaves. Hinata called Hanabi a hero, as she giggled and flushed. "He seems more like a prince," she remarked, looking at Hinata in disbelief. "Heroes save villages. Princes save princesses," she continued, thinking about the dashing blonde boy. When Hinata and Hanabi made the decision to return to the compound, they had no idea that this brief encounter would prove to be crucial for their survival. Next day. Compound in Uchiha. While seated in the Uchiha funeral hall's hallway, Fugaku observed the guests entering the facility. He exhaled and turned to face the gloomy sky. "Sasuke, I wish you hadn't gone against the clan," he thought to himself as he considered his late son. "Maybe I should have been a better father," he wondered to himself before being startled out of his reverie by someone watching over him. With sorrowful eyes, Hiruzen extended his hand to the Uchiha patriarch, expressing his own understanding of the loss of a son. As Fugaku shook his hand, Hiruzen empathetically said, "Fugaku, you have my condolences." He replied, "Thank you, Lord Hokage," as Hiruzen was speaking. "Where's Makoto?" he inquired, to which Fugaku let out another sigh. He looked down at the floor and said, "Makoto has been taking Sasuke's death especially hard. She has been in a state of shock ever since finding out. She's in the bed with Isumi watching over her for her own safety." Hiruzen nodded. "Once more, I apologize for your loss," he said as he left. The clan leaders then approached Fugaku to offer their condolences. Hiruzen had left. Sume Inuzuka in particular felt guilty because she knew that her clan was in charge of lighting the village. Then Fugaku noticed that Hiyashi Hyuga was the only one not in the group. He was sitting stoically and remained silent. Fugaku was suddenly filled with rage at the man because, in addition to actively trying to keep his clan under control, the Academy's reports also seemed to indicate that he had been abusing his eldest daughter, as evidenced by the obvious bruises on her arms and legs. Even though he wasn't the greatest father, Fugaku would never hurt any of his sons, and he clenched his fists at that. "Hiyashi," Fugaku mused ominously, "I may not relish murdering the others, but I will find some measure of happiness in making sure your daughters are secure." Naruto had informed him about his confrontation with Hiyashi's children. Fugaku had no justification for killing the clan head's children because he didn't want any needless deaths. When the funeral got underway, Fugaku got to his feet and, seeing the packed room, started praising Sasuke as his plan got underway. Alongside Kakashi. As he stood there observing the funeral parlor, Kakashi reflected on how, despite the absence of a body, his friend Obito had his funeral there. One of the 4 Anbu sent out to guard the Hokage, Kakashi was one of many expert ninjas and clan chiefs who ensured the Hokage was safe from outside threats, but they remained as a backup. Then he reached up and touched his communication device's button. He asked, "Cat report," but got no answer. "Cat report," he repeated. "Damn communicators," he thought to himself, "why are we getting hand? Me. Downs and Cell 3 getting the new ones? He said, Monkey check in on Cat, her communicator is on the fritz again, but he received no reply. At that point, Kakashi started to worry because he was constantly on guard. Yugo, Hayate, Yugiro, do you cop? He asked, getting no answer. Cat, Monkey, Crane? Do you copy? He asked, before a blade pierced his chest and he looked down in horror. He fell to the ground, coughing up blood, as the blade was drawn out. He felt his dog mask being removed, and when he looked up, he saw a figure standing over him. The figure then removed his blank mask, revealing whisper marks and blonde hair. While gazing at the lost son of his late sensei, Naruto, Kakashi coughed and asked, Why? Only to have his head chopped off. Then, reaching down, Naruto took out his Sharingan and stored it in a vial for later use. Then, Naruto spoke by pressing a button on his communicator. He said, Sai, Izumi, Makoto report. Alongside Sai. Sai was sketching a picture of the recently killed, target eliminated, cat. Masked Anbu. Alongside Izumi. Izumi just finished saying a prayer for the target dead, monkey. Masked Anbu. Alongside Makoto. Makoto cleaned the blade on her ancient katana, which she had been hoarding for almost 15 years, before picking it up once more. Makoto declared, my target is neutralized. Alongside Naruto. Naruto declared, my target is down, and then he started to say, go to the rally, until he was struck by a blow. He saw two figures emerge as he up, one of them wearing a mask and the other appearing to be half plant, half human. The man wearing the mask said, I can finally finish what I started, and he slapped Naruto's forehead with a piece of paper. I finally found you, boy, he said. Using Fugaku. When a shockwave shook the earth and everyone there 8 years ago heard a familiar roar, Fugaku stopped reading his eulogy. I can only hope that Sasuke can find peace in the afterlife as this world is too. Everyone was completely shocked to see that the nine-tailed fox had returned as soon as they left the building. All of the Uchiha shushed out of the area as the fox prepared a small Biju bomb and Fugaku yelled, disperse, while the majority of the others watched in horror and confusion. Though they were still struck by the shockwave, Fugaku and his Uchiha clansmen managed to flee the explosion in time, with none of them suffering any serious injuries. Then he noticed that Hiruzen and the clan chiefs had managed to flee. The other people, the civilians, and anyone else who was unable to shushine, had not been as fortunate. The fox vanished as quickly as it appeared, and then they heard sounds of devastation coming from the east. The fox had teleported outside the village walls. As the elderly man spoke, Fugaku turned to face Hiruzen. Fugaku, you know what to do, Hiruzen remarked, and Fugaku nodded. The Uchiha clan roared, and he yelled, Uchiha clan attack. As Hiruzen prepared to face the fox for the second time in his life, he glanced back at the village. Fugaku then unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks on the elderly Hokage, almost taking his life. The leaders of the clan were taken completely by surprise. Shoza Akamichi, the powerhouse, was eliminated first, followed by Shikaku Nara, who posed the greatest threat of all. Shibi Aburame remained motionless, and Sume Inuzuka, Hiyashi Hyuga, and Inoichi Yamanaka went on the defensive. Sume Inuzuka turned to face her and said, Shibi, get the lead out of your ass and fight. I am sorry, Sume, he said, letting his bugs loose. I made a bargain to support my tribe. We have been marginalized for far too long. It makes sense for two oppressed communities to unite against injustice, he continued, sending his swarm after her. At this point, Hiruzen was in a panic. He had not anticipated the fox or Fugaku. He removed his robes to reveal his battle armor as he gained some distance. At that moment, Fugaku and Shibi found themselves facing the elderly Hokage. I like our odds, Fugaku remarked as he activated his Sharingan, a Hokage-level Uchiha and an S. Class Aburame versus an old man playing Hokage. Shibi nodded. He pulled his bugs from his sleeves and said, our odds are most favorable, but let's not get overconfident. He is the Hokage for a reason. Fugaku nodded. Alongside Naruto. Feeling like a shit, Naruto was in the forest outside the Uchiha compound when that masked bastard did something to let the fox run free. He would have died from the extraction if it weren't for his Uzumaki genes. He then reached up and touched his now Dead right eye. Naruto thought, damn it, as he could see nothing but darkness. Izanagi may have kept me from dying, but I still feel like I'm on my deathbed, he thought to himself. Then, he heard 4 distinct landings. Makoto halted beside him and yelled, Naruto. He said, who's with you? To which Sai answered. He said, me, Izumi, and Tetsuo, as Naruto took out Kakashi's Sharingan from his pocket. Placing himself against a tree, he uttered, transplant this, fix me up and let's get into the fight. He said as the two leapt off, Sai and Izumi go find the masked man and the plant man. Using Fugaku. The Hokage was still giving Fugaku and Shibi a hard time because he was becoming a real pain in the ass. Exasperated, Fugaku unleashed his Susanoo and charged at Hiruzen. Recalling his training from the first Hokage, Hiruzen began employing long-range fire jutsu to undermine the defenses. Then, realizing he had fallen into Fugaku's trap and that Shibi had been gradually depleting him of his chakra, he felt his chakra being drained. Then Fugaku cancelled his Susanoo and resumed hand fighting. Sensing his weakness, Hiruzen fought with all of his strength, that is, until he felt a slash through his armor, cutting along his back. At that, Hiruzen moved away from Fugaku and turned to face the assailant from behind. Upon seeing Makoto Uchiha in full battle gear, he first noticed a blonde boy who was sweating and bruised, clutching a ninjutsu and had a single Sharingan in his right eye. He greeted the long-lost grandson with the words, Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing here? Fugaku, what have you done? He yelled at the stoic-looking Uchiha clan chief. With a menacing expression in Hiruzen's eye, Fugaku remarked, I took him under my wing. He said, you brainwashed him, didn't you? Before Naruto interrupted. No he didn't, Naruto replied as Hiruzen examined the youngster. He took me in, he trained me to become as strong as Itachi, he gave me something this village never gave me. A chance. The 4th Hokage was a fool for believing in this village. This village is corrupt, twisted. The villagers take their anger out on a child, the Hyuga enslaved their own people and Danzo kidnapped and brainwashed children to be his soldiers. Naruto screamed as Hiruzen stared. Naruto declared, I'm here of my own free will, while revealing his Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto the 4th Hokage, your mother and father wouldn't want you to go down this road. Hiruzen threw a Hail Mary to try to talk sense into the boy's head, but it didn't work. As he assumed a Kenjutsu stance, he addressed Hiruzen's anguish, saying, Minato Namikaze is not my father, and Kushina Uzumaki is only my birth parent. My father is Fugaku Uchiha and my mother is Makoto Uchiha. Family isn't who you were born with, it's who you die for. Then Hiruzen turned to face Naruto, who was sprinting in his direction. Hiruzen felt time slow down as he watched. With his sword poised to pierce the elderly man through the chest, Naruto, sporting a luminous Sharingan and an expression filled with wrath and hatred, looked menacing. With Naruto just inches away, he thought, Minato, Kushina, I'm sorry I failed you and I failed Naruto. Bawako, my lova, I'm coming to you now, he thought as he closed his eyes. After immediately killing Hiruzen with a sword sunk in his heart, Naruto withdrew the weapon and allowed the elderly man to collapse to the ground. Even though Naruto despised the elderly man, he still held a small amount of affection for him, as he gave him one final glance and a single tear fell from his blue eye. Then Naruto turned to face Fugaku, who spoke. What took place? Fugaku inquired. Fugaku closed his eyes after Naruto finished telling him everything. Naruto, go deal with the fox. Use everything in your arsenal, Fugaku said, before Naruto bowed and vanished. Makoto, he said, trying to get his wife's attention. Itachi, he added, and when Makoto nodded and took off, he said, I'll deal with that masked bastard myself. He then vanished from sight. Alongside Hanabi and Hinata. While the demon outside tore apart the village, the two sisters were hiding with the rest of the Hyuga clan in the clan bunker, crying and afraid. Hinata was giving her sister comfort because she was extremely afraid. She tried to soothe her sobbing sister, but Hanabi persisted in crying. It's okay Hanabi, I'm here, she reassured her, adding that she would always be there to protect her. Hinata noticed Hanabi reaching around to retrieve something, and she became curious as to why she stopped. Then Hanabi took out the piece of paper that she had received from the boy the day before and filled it with as much chakra as she could. She prayed in silence, please come, waiting for her savior. The next thing she knew, a puff of smoke appeared in front of her and Hinata, and everyone inside the bunker turned to see a blonde boy who had suddenly appeared. The two girls were seized by the fair-haired boy, who uttered the words, "Hold on tight," before they both grasped his arms and disappeared into a cloud of smoke. For a split second, the people inside the bunker were perplexed. After that, the entire structure gave way and a red paw crashed through the ceiling, killing everyone inside. In Naruto's residence. When the two girls realized they were in a house, Naruto let them go. They then watched as their blonde savior hastily swapped out his worn-out armor and suit for a new one. The demon is on the other side of the village. "Wait here until I come back," he said, grabbing a black jacket and putting it on with a single whiff. "You'll be safe here," he said, drawing the attention of both Hinata and Hanabi. "Wait," Hinata interrupted the boy, "what's your name?" The boy asked, pausing briefly before continuing. Hanabi spoke up, he said, "Naruto Uchiha," grinning at the two girls. "Wait here, okay, I'll be back, I promise." Worried, she said, "But what if you don't?" Naruto laughed. He said, "I don't break promises," before vanishing into a whirl of leaves. In Konoha, Naruto claimed that the man wearing a mask had torn the Kyuubi from Fugaku. "Fugaku," said the man in the mask, and Fugaku gave him a cold stare. He activated both of his Sharingans and yelled, "You ruined my plans, destroyed a part of my clan's compound, and tried to kill my son." Fugaku declared as he assumed a combat stance, "I will kill you for what you've done, I don't care who you are." In addition to activating his Sharingan, the man in the mask assumed a fighting stance. The fight between Fugaku and the masked man was going to be the one that determined the future, even though most people believed that defeating the Kyuubi should come first. After hurling multiple kunai at the man in the mask, Fugaku watched as the projectile went through him and struck a wall behind him. The man in the mask then charged at Fugaku, trying to seize him, but Fugaku ducked, gained some extra distance, and launched multiple more kunai. The man in the mask felt a sharp pain as the first few kunai passed through him. Looking down, he saw a shuriken in his abdomen. "I see," Fugaku remarked, "you deactivate your phasing jutsu whenever the attack ends because it can't be used for that long. That's helpful to know. All I have to do now is keep attacking," he said, making hand gestures and launching a fireball at the man wearing a mask. The masked figure ran forward after the jutsu dissipated, thinking, "Damn it, I got to end this quickly. I can only use Kamui for no more than 5 minutes and he already made me use up 45 seconds. As he attempted to attack Fugaku while keeping his distance, he thought to himself. Alongside Itachi. How could this happen? Itachi thought to himself as he raced to stop the nine-tailed fox from destroying the village. The 9 tails are supposed to be sealed inside Naruto, but no one has seen him in years. Itachi wondered if he had returned in the end to exact revenge. After dodging a sword strike and taking a kick to the chest, Itachi leapt to the side. When he regained his balance, he was startled to see his opponent, calling her mother, and glancing at Makoto. "You are such a disappointment, Itachi," Makoto remarked as she assumed her fighting stance. "A son willing to betray his own family in order to protect a village that has outcasted them," Makoto said, causing Itachi to freeze and reply. Itachi pulled out his sword and said, "A coup was never the solution to the Uchiha's problems. I was doing the honorable thing and eliminating a threat to the village," to Makoto's mocking remarks. Danzo has been funding Orochimaru's research and providing subjects for his covert killings of Uchiha and Sharingan harvesting for years. The Uchiha clan suffered from exclusion and hatred as a result of the council's decision to prevent them from assisting the village during the most recent 9-tailed fox attack. Itachi felt his resolve waver as he was unaware of Danzo and the council. Makoto responded, "The village doesn't care about the Uchiha, so why should we care about it? The first Hokage and our ancestor Madara were fools to believe Konoha could change the world when it only brought more hatred and violence." Makoto said before Itachi could finish, "So, your plan to kill me, is that it, mother?" She pointed her sword at Itachi and said, startling him, "You are not my son. You plan to murder an entire clan because of the actions of a few. I know about how you and Shisui were conspiring with the Hokage and Danzo to stop the Uchiha at all costs." Resuming her position, she remarked, "Naruto is more of a son to me than you are. And once this is over, I will love and cherish him like how Kushina would have wanted." The name, Naruto, The container of the 9 tails? Made Itachi freeze. He glanced back at his mother and thought, he's been here the entire time. Itachi uttered, very well, as he assumed his position. I have no choice then. Let's begin, he replied. Then, with their goals in conflict, Makoto and Itachi charged at one another and slashed swords. Itachi defending his village and Makoto fighting for her family. Alongside Naruto. After quickly passing through the hand signs that read, combination style, scorching white phosphorus, Naruto dodged another of the fox's tails as it smashed the house he was just standing on. Fuck, he thought to himself as he ran, how the hell did the first Hokage catch this thing by himself? He then blew a thick white cloud at the fox. Naruto combined the earth, fire, and wind chakras to create this jutsu, which caused the white smoke to burn and adhere to the fox's fur upon contact. Makoto was largely responsible for it since she was an earth affinity and taught Naruto the fundamentals. Fugaku, observing this, proposed that Naruto combine his wind affinity and fundamental fire jutsu with his basic earth jutsu to create a new technique. When Naruto saw the fox thrashing around, trying to put out the white hot flames that would not go out, he thought, okay, I got it off balance, now I just got to, until a giant toad appeared and started to fight the giant fox. Then, Naruto saw a figure appear in front of him, a man with white hair, a red haori, and a headband bearing the kanji for oil. Just as the old man was about to start interrogating Naruto, all seriousness vanished from his face and was replaced with relief and happiness. Jiraiya stumbled, and Naruto, but Naruto nodded. Naruto, my boy, you're here, I can't believe it, he started, but Naruto cut him short. Jiraiya nodded and Naruto cut the toad sage off, saying, no time for that. We got to reseal that fox in me or else this village is screwed. Now that the toad was a good distance from the fox, Jiraiya said, okay, let's do it, and he teleported Naruto and himself to the summit of Gamabunta. Now that you're here, after all these years of searching for you, Jiraiya exclaimed as Naruto turned to face him. I can't wait to find Sensei when this is over and show him you're back, he grinned. Jiraiya was unaware of how or why Naruto had returned, but he didn't care. He can make Naruto become the ninja Minato and Kushina always knew he could be, correct his mistakes, and train him. On the other hand, Naruto was staring at the man blankly. As they both refocused on the raging fox, Naruto thought, Jiraiya. The man who abandoned me when he was supposed to take care of me. Let's see if you will correct your mistake or if you will make another one, he thought to himself. Alongside Sai and Izumi. Sai and Izumi believed their opponent, the plant man who was accompanied by the masked man who attacked Naruto, would be extraordinarily powerful and skilled. Sai and Izumi exchanged a look as Izumi severed his head and used a fire jutsu to burn the remains. Izumi questioned, was he really that weak? And Sai shrugged. Izumi nodded and drove off, but Sai said, I guess he wasn't as big of a threat as we thought he was, as he sealed away the charred corpse of the strange plant man. Go find Makoto or Fugaku and assist them. Running towards his and Naruto's house, Sai thought to himself, after I get the items, I got to find Tetsuo so we can prepare for the final phase of the plan. Using Fugaku. Fugaku fired another fireball at the man wearing the mask, but it phased through. After using his technique, he punched the man. The masked moss thought to himself, damn, I can't afford to lose now. With that, he used his kamui to appear behind Fugaku, who immediately leapt away and threw several kunai that were attached with paper bombs. After the explosion subsided and the smoke cleared, Fugaku saw that the man had broken his mask, exposing the right side of his face. You have a Sharingan and the ability to phase through objects, and yet you are still being beaten? How pathetic, Fugaku said, glancing at the man. He said, if you are Uchiha, you are a pitiful failure, before calling forth his Susanoo and launching another assault. As he sidestepped a punch from the Susanoo, the man in the mask thought, shit, all these years and this is all I can do. Alongside Makoto. Makoto and Itachi were engaged in a sword fight, with Itachi finding it extremely difficult to overcome Makoto. Despite spending her entire life at home, she hasn't let her skills wane in the slightest. Her time spent serving alongside Kushina Uzumaki and Hitomi Hyuga elevated her to a level where she could compete with anyone. Makoto leapt backward and swiftly executed the hand signals, earth-style, mud bullets. She then unleashed a barrage of mud projectiles at Itachi, who was poised to stop them with his sword, only to take hits from his mother's earth-style jutsu and get struck in the back by a fireball. When he looked up after the attack, he noticed Makoto's lover, Izumi, standing next to him. Itachi said, "Izumi," as Izumi gave him a repulsed look. "Itachi, you were planning to kill the entire Uchiha clan," she uttered, her voice filled with sorrow and rage. "Were you going to murder me as well?" she inquired. Izumi yelled, "You monster!" And Itachi could not respond with words. Instead, his silence spoke for him. "I loved you." She yelled, "I hate you, Itachi, and I'll see that you die for your treachery. You were going to kill me over a village that would just throw you away like garbage, and I truly loved you." Makoto and Izumi both lunged toward Itachi. Itachi's battle just became much more difficult since he was now up against two of his closest friends, and worse, they were winning. Jiraiya and Naruto together. As he watched the nine tails flailing in front of him in an attempt to escape Gamabunta and the two other toads fending it off, Naruto exclaimed impatiently, "Hurry up, will you?" While carefully applying another sealing kanji to Naruto, Jiraiya remarked, "Hold your horses, kid. This is a delicate process. One wrong move and you die, and then the entire village is screwed unless we seal it into another baby." He remarked, "And I'm sure you don't want to do that." Naruto waited patiently for the elderly toad hermit to finish writing, suppressing the urge to yell that it was his father who initiated this whole mess. Jiraiya put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, said, "Okay, done," and teleported in front of Gamabunta and the nine-tailed fox. Naruto was terrified when he saw the enormous fox demon in front of him, even though he was always aware of his burden. Jiraiya looked at the boy and said, "Naruto, I got to warn you. This is probably going to be the most painful thing you have ever experienced in your life." Tired from everything that had happened today, both mentally and physically, Naruto huffed, "Just do it already," as he turned to face the Kyuubi after turning to face him. Jiraiya moved swiftly through the hand seals until he got to the last one, sealing jutsu, 8 trigram seal reconstruction. He yelled as Naruto's body started to glow with the kanji written on it, and Naruto started to cry out in agony. Naruto's muscles tore away from his skin, and he felt as though his bones were being ground to dust as horrifying visions of death and destruction replayed in his head. The sealing tattoo on his stomach was reforming, and he was screaming and yelling as the nine-tailed fox was being sealed back into the little blonde boy. The fox made every effort to resist the seal's strength, but it was dragged back into its blonde host. The village fell silent as the last piece of the fox disappeared into Naruto's seal, leaving only Naruto to sob and sigh in agony as blood seeped from his mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. Subsequently, Naruto rose to his feet gradually, his body quivering due to the severe pain and diminishing effects of adrenaline. Naruto uttered, "I have to locate him." "Find who?" Jiraiya asked. He didn't get an answer as Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. "Damn it, Naruto, you're in no shape to be wandering off," Jiraiya yelled. He decided to go look into the explosion after hearing it before he could take any further action. Using Fugaku. With his mask removed and facing his former clan leader, Obito Uchiha just missed Fugaku's exploding kunai. The men's chakra and stamina were slowly depleting as they huffed and puffing. Fugaku heard a thud from behind him as he was ready to engage Obito again. When he turned to look, he saw Naruto severely injured and nearly unconscious. Then Fugaku saw something. A chance to put an end to this fight. Pointing at Obito, he yelled, "Naruto, use your Mangekyo Sharingan on him." Without posing any questions, Naruto struck the man with the scars on his face using his Mangekyo. Fugaku then lunged towards Obito, brandishing a kunai and making a stabbing motion. With Fugaku now a few feet ahead of Obito, the latter attempted to use his Kamui power. But it didn't work. Fugaku stabbed Obito in the chest with his kunai, causing the disfigured Uchiha to cough up blood. After stabbing Obito through the temple with a second kunai, Fugaku had one last regret as his body collapsed, saying, "Rin, I'm sorry." Fugaku turned as he heard a thud and turned to see Naruto now slumped on his side as Obito fell to the ground, wondering how he was still alive. "Naruto!" Fugaku hurried to his apprentice and yelled. Naruto uttered the word, "Master," feebly. "Yes, it's me." Glancing over at Naruto, Fugaku asked, "What happened?" When Jiraiya landed close to Fugaku, he said, "I sealed the nine tails back into him." "What the hell happened here?" Fugaku inquired. Fugaku cursed because he did not think Jiraiya would be here. He was worn out from his battle with Obito and had low chakra. He saw a murder of crows form around Jiraiya before he could say anything. Itachi grabbed the toad sage and proclaimed, "Lord Jiraiya, we must retreat." He said this simply as they vanished into the crows, leaving only black feathers. Makoto cried out, "Fugaku, Naruto," as she landed next to the two injured men. "Are you two all right? What happened?" she exclaimed, running over to them. "Obito was the mastermind behind this, but that's not important," Fugaku said, gesturing to Obito's lifeless body as Makoto gasped in shock. "Itachi and Jiraiya are still loose, we need to finish the plan quickly," he added, picking up Naruto. After 8 hours. With almost the entire village gathered in front of the tower, Fugaku now stood atop the Hokage tower, or what was left of Ida, and used a projection jutsu to make himself visible to all. He was going to address the terrified villagers as the head of Konoha's police and one of the two surviving council members. After clearing his throat, Fugaku started talking. "Konoha residents, what transpired last night was a horrifying and terrible tragedy that was preventable. Now is the time for new leadership, for peacemaking, and for the Leaf Village to rise from the ashes and rebuild. Hiruzen Sarutobi was a fool and a cage past his prime. Herein lies a new era beginning for the people of Konoha." Fugaku finished and closed his eyes. Everyone who was looking at him was wondering what he was doing. He then speaks the single word, Katomatsukami, as he slowly opens his eyes to reveal his new eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. An hour following Fugaku's lecture. While Fugaku used Katomatsukami to make the villagers forget about Naruto and several other things, he still did not trust Konoha enough to have him in the hospital. Makoto, Izumi, and Fugaku were all walking to Naruto's house to check on him. Izumi asked, "So, are the damages that bad?" And Fugaku nodded. Pinching the bridge of his nose, Fugaku uttered, "A quarter of the Inuzuka clan, half of the Akamichi clan, and the entire Hyuga clan. We lost 500 civilians and 300 ninja this time thanks to that treacherous Obito." Fugaku remarked, "Almost as bad as the first time." Makoto said, grabbing their attention, "It doesn't matter. Obito was the one who caused the destruction, and he's dead. We weren't responsible for it." She sighed and said, "Our plan may have involved death, but it would not have passed no more than 40 people. This was all the fault of a madman. No one else," she stated. Both Fugaku and Izumi nodded before Izumi inquired, "What about Jiraiya and Itachi?" While Fugaku let out another sigh. "One nightmare at a time, Izumi," he said as he was still wondering how was he going to handle the two rogues who could still cause problems. In Naruto's residence. When Fugaku, Makoto, and Izumi arrived, Fugaku knocked in the hopes that Tetsuo or Sai would answer. However, a small child with lavender eyes answered the door and spoke. "Who are you?" she questioned, causing the three people at the door to turn in shock. They all assumed that all of the Hyugas had been slain. Fugaku pointed and said, "Fugaku Uchiha, Makoto Uchiha, Izumi Uchiha. And you are?" As the young girl cowered and hid behind the door. She uttered the words, "Hinata Hyuga," as Makoto and Fugaku gave her a wide-eyed look. She is not only a Hyuga, but also the heiress. Makoto interrupted her as she started, I'm sorry, but if why you were here to see Naruto, you can't because he's sick and..." Hinata let out a small cry and opened the door. "It's okay, sweetie," she said in a soothing, calm voice. "We are Naruto's mother and father. I apologize." As the three of them entered the house, she said, Please come in. Naruto is in his room." She then led them to Naruto's room. When they got inside, they noticed something odd, a second young girl trying to feed Naruto while he was bandaged and sitting in bed. The young girl called out to Naruto, "Come on, eat your chicken soup. It will make you feel better if you're hurt." Naruto obeyed. Naruto responded, "That's if I'm sick, Hanabi, not if I've been beaten half to death by a big-ass demon fox." Hanabi then smacked Naruto on the head, causing him to scream in agony. Hanabi said, "Language, I'm a little kid, dickless," to which Sai, who was drawing a chair on the other side of the room, laughed. "What the hell, Hanabi?" Naruto exclaimed, "That." Makoto grabbed his ear and pulled, preventing Naruto from continuing. "And sweetie, please don't use that word, it's not nice," Makoto reprimanded, turning to face Hanabi with a smile. Don't you dare use that kind of language in front of a lady. Hanabi spoke in a tone reminiscent of a mother. Hanabi appeared mortified. Yes, ma'am, she replied, picking up the spoon once more. Okay, Naruto, eat up. After blushing, Naruto gave up and allowed Hanabi to spoon. Feed him. As Fugaku greeted him, Tetsuo entered the room and said, "Oh Lord Fugaku, glad you came." He then said, "Let's go into the hall and discuss Naruto's injuries," and the two men left. When Makoto noticed Hinata approaching Naruto, she grinned and said, "So girls," grabbing Hanabi's and Hinata's attention. "How did you get here?" Makoto inquired as Hanabi took out a piece of paper. As Hinata nodded, Hanabi said, "Naruto gave me this paper and told me to call him if me and my sister ever get in trouble." As Hinata turned to face Naruto, she remarked, "He saved us like a hero from a storybook." Naruto came and saved us from the monster. He told us to hide here while he fought it. When Hinata said, "I didn't do anything special," Naruto blushed. "I promised you too that I would save you if you were in trouble, and I did," he said, leaning back in his bed. Hanabi giggled and cuddled up next to Naruto. Makoto, Hinata, and Sai laughed as she kissed the injured blonde boy's cheek, stating, "You're our hero, Naru." The boy blushed in shame. Then Fugaku came into the space and talked. Everyone in the room left, leaving just Fugaku and Naruto. "May I have the room? I need to speak to Naruto alone," he said. After that, Fugaku sat down on the bed next to Naruto and said, "Son, I never thought this would happen or that you would suffer so much." Naruto balled his fists and Fugaku said, "I apologize for my negligence." "You don't have to worry, father," Naruto reassured him, causing Fugaku to wince at the phrase. "You could not have seen such a thing happening," Fugaku responded to Naruto's question. He stood up and said, "Now that we have Danzo's research, we can find a way to implant his eye into you without removing your other eye." Naruto nodded. "First with Obito's eye, now you have a complete set," he said. He touched his one remaining blue eye and said, "Yes, I would prefer to keep at least one of my eyes." "What about Jiraiya and Itachi?" Fugaku shook his head in response to Naruto's question, "Are they dead?" As Naruto nodded, Fugaku remarked, "No, they are still out there, so we need to get ready for their counterattack. But until then, get some rest." "You earned it," he concluded. He said, "Thank you, father," and Fugaku grinned back. Naruto grinned and Fugaku said, "You're welcome, son." Naruto fell asleep as Fugaku shut the door, glancing up at the ceiling and thinking, "Son, that sounds nice." After 2 days, with Tsunade. As she walked back to her hotel room, Tsunade decided to take a nap in order to make up for her losses from the previous day's gaming and drinking. She opened the door to her room expecting to receive another lecture from Shizune, but what she saw startled her to her very core. While Shizune was tending to a young man who was injured and wearing Enbu armor, Jiraiya sat in a chair looking furious. Tsunade said, "Jiraiya, what are you doing here?" She asked, "Who is this boy?" Jiraiya gave her a sidelong glance. "The Uchiha have taken over Konoha. Naruto is being held captive by them, and only Itachi and I are standing against them," he said, causing Tsunade's heart to stop. Tsunade sat in a chair, staring off into space as she tried to process the news. Tsunade asked, "And what do you want from me?" Jiraiya gave her a stupid look. "What I want is for you to help me take back the village," Jiraiya said as he rose up, "Help defend your grandfather's legacy and become the next Hokage." Tsunade scowled as she turned to face Jiraiya. She spat, "Why should I go back to that village? I lost." Before she could finish, Jiraiya slapped her, grabbed her blouse, and drew her in. "I don't care what you fucking lost, woman. The village is under the control of a power. Hungry clan. Fugaku has slandered the Hokage name and kidnapped Naruto for fuck's sake," Jiraiya exclaimed, his face and eyes full of rage. "Tsunade, your time of sympathy is over. You must assist me in defeating Fugaku, rescuing Naruto, and resolving this issue. What's your response, Tsunade? Or I kill you now, take Shizune with me, her, and Itachi do it ourselves." To get his point across, Jiraiya formed a Rasengan in his hand and held it inches from Tsunade's face. Tsunade turned to face the furious man and realized that he was not her perverted teammate Jiraiya, but rather a man on a mission who would kill to accomplish his objectives. Reluctantly, Tsunade said, "Okay Jiraiya, I'll join you." Jiraiya then let the Rasengan die out and turned to face a terrified Shizune and a somewhat recovered Itachi. Itachi nodded as Jiraiya addressed him, grabbing his attention. Go to the fire capital and get Asuma Sarutobi. Once you do, look around for any leaf ninja who were out of the village during the attack, Jiraiya said. To catch the blonde woman's attention, Jiraiya said, Tsunade, we need to find more. But was cut off when a puff of smoke appeared and a snake with a scroll on its back started speaking. The snake said, Jiraiya of the SS Sannin, as he hurled the scroll at Jiraiya. My master will be awaiting you, he continued, before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. After reading the scroll, Jiraiya closed it and sighed, saying, looks like old Orochimaru wants to parley, as Itachi, Shizune, and Tsunade expressed surprise at the information. He said to Itachi, no surprise there, he wanted to destroy Konoha, then turned to face Tsunade. He most likely wants to rub it in our faces and kill us. So, let's just go kill him and be done with it, he continued, barely able to move as he followed, Tsunade and Shizune following. They arrived at the open field that the writing on the scroll indicated after leaving the village they were staying in. In the middle of the field, Jiraiya noticed a lone figure with long hair blowing in the wind. Jiraiya uttered, Orochimaru, with simplicity. Orochimaru said, Jiraiya, without his customary teasing. Jiraiya said, okay, enough with the small talk. I got enough on my plate without you slithering out of whatever hole you were hiding in. I don't know why you're here, but I don't care. He then assumed a fighting stance. Let's put an end to this, you pale-faced pedo, he muttered while stamping the ground. Given how dangerous Orochimaru was and that this would not be an easy fight, Tsunade and Itachi also assumed fighting stances. Gazing at Jiraiya, who was as steady as a rock and had a stone face, Orochimaru didn't even flinch. Orochimaru said, Jiraiya, you are still the same clueless idiot from our team all those years ago, which caused Jiraiya to back off. Orochimaru, his patience wearing thin, said, I'm not here to fight you, you retarded toad summoner. Jiraiya said, then why are you here, snake face? And Orochimaru answered with the last thing they ever imagined hearing him say. Orochimaru said, I'm here to offer my assistance, as Jiraiya, Tsunade, Itachi, and Shizune cast doubt on the renegade Sannin. Itachi got better first and said something. Orochimaru became enraged and questioned, why would you want to help us? Orochimaru, glancing at Itachi, remarked, your clan of barbarians effectively toppled the Leaf Village in a single night. I've been planning for years to destroy the Leaf, kill Sarutobi-sensei, and claim the village as my own for over 10 years now. His anger was evident. I became a rebel, gathered an army, and established my own village. He turned to face Jiraiya and yelled, those preparations took years to prepare, and those cursed Uchiha took away my goal in a single night. I will never be able to kill Sarutobi-sensei, but at least I can get my revenge. Orochimaru gave a melancholic laugh and said, I'm sure you are not doing this out of the kindness of your heart, so what do you want? Itachi recoiled as this monster claimed to be after his clan's holy dojutsu. All I want is a pair of Sharingan and to kill the one responsible for killing Sarutobi, he declared. While thinking deeply, Jiraiya decided to join forces with Orochimaru. He would let him kill Fugaku and give him a pair of Sharingan. Together, they would restore Konoha to proper order and save Naruto. Jiraiya considered the advantages and disadvantages and concluded, however, Orochimaru is a cunning son of a bitch and will probably betray us in the end. At last, Jiraiya sighed and said, okay, you got a deal, startling Tsunade and Itachi in particular. Wise choice, Jiraiya. I'll contact you in 3 weeks. Find as many allies as you can, so until then. Ta-ta, Orochimaru uttered before vanishing into a whirlwind of leaves, leaving Jiraiya and his allies alone in the area. Then Itachi screamed at Jiraiya, getting in his face. Itachi, who was always the epitome of composure, yelled, have you lost your fucking mind? This was completely unexpected even for him. He started, but Jiraiya stopped him with a raised hand. You just promised probably the most dangerous rogue ninja in the world the most powerful dojutsu in return for help. How can you? Jiraiya, staring at the still smoldering Uchiha, said, you can kill him after we save the village and Naruto. I'd make a deal with the devil if it meant I saved Naruto from being Fugaku's pet. You said that Makoto said she considers him a son, he said while Itachi nodded. Fugaku probably let Makoto get close to him after what happened to your brother. She's a delusional heartbroken woman. She can't see the boy as just a brainwashed puppet to her husband, Jiraiya stated as Itachi settled down. My second biggest mistake was not realizing that Naruto had the 9 tails sealed back into him, and now he is stuck in a dark place. Jiraiya concluded, Fugaku is a brainwashed little boy who carries the world's most powerful Biju inside of him. If working with Orochimaru tips the scales in our favor, then goddammit, I'll carry that burden to the fucking grave. Shizune remarked, so what now, Lord Jiraiya, as Jiraiya paused to consider. Tsunade and me will go to Taki to ask for assistance. Jiraiya stated that they won't be too happy to hear that their greatest ally has had a coup and will want to secure their military ally as soon as possible, according to him. Shizune and Itachi will travel to the fire capital and get Asuma. Also try to find as many free leaf shinobi as possible, he said while Shizune appeared perplexed. All shinobi in Konoha are under that damn genjutsu Fugaku used from what Ma and Pa told me. So they are compromised. We need every shinobi who was outside as they will be loyal to us, he stated as Itachi and Shizune nodded. Comprehensive, Itachi bowed. All right, Shizune replied, see you soon, Lady Tsunade. She then vanished into a whirl of leaves with Itachi. Then, Tsunade cast a critical glance at Jiraiya, asking, will this work, Jiraiya? Jiraiya balled his fists in response to Tsunade's question, will all this be enough to defeat Fugaku? Jiraiya remarked, it better Tsunade, because God help me if it doesn't. He looked up at the sky and said, Minato, Kushina, don't worry. He turned his attention back to Tsunade and thought, if it's the last thing I do, I'll save Naruto. He turned to Tsunade and said, let's go. We got thing to do and not a whole lot of time to do it. They started walking west toward their intended destination. 2 weeks following the coup, Konoha. Walking through the streets of Konoha, Naruto, Hinata, and Hanabi were all together. Hinata insisted on going grocery shopping and asked Naruto to accompany her, as she did not want to be alone in the house. Naruto has come to love their company. During the first few days, Hanabi cared for him while he recovered, and Hinata prepared meals for her sister and Naruto using her meager culinary skills. Although he was grateful, Naruto was also a little uneasy because, up until this point, only Sai and Shin had lived with him. Having 2 girls live with him made him feel even more uneasy, especially since the only other women he had ever interacted with were Makoto and Izumi. He was completely unfamiliar with simple things like closing the toilet seat and having girl clothes in his closet. Naruto observed people attempting to resume their regular lives and gave them a derisive glance as they passed. He wouldn't be strolling down this street right now if Fugaku hadn't used that genjutsu to make them forget about him. If he had been the same boy when Fugaku first discovered him, he would have either been insulted or driven away by now. Naruto still had disdain for the villagers despite spending so many years hiding in the shadows. He was just another nameless child who, without their knowledge, could blow up the village whenever he pleased. Taking Naruto's hand, Hanabi said, you okay, Naru? Adding, you look angry. With a sigh, Naruto apologized, saying, just some bad memories. I apologize, Naru, Hanabi said, apologizing for her question as she felt Naruto give her a head pat and smile. It's okay, Hanabi, he said. Hinata stopped the 3 of them as they were walking. Hinata suggested that we have our meal here first, as they came to a halt in front of a ramen restaurant. When they first arrived, an elderly man and his daughter welcomed them and said, good morning. Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen, kids. The man then said, have a seat. We'll be with you in a minute. With Hanabi and Hinata seated next to him, Naruto took a seat. The ramen chef's daughter then approached and spoke. So, how are you 3 doing? She inquired. Are you 3 okay? From the attack 2 weeks ago? Hinata answered. She gestured to the blonde boy seated next to her and said, yeah, we are doing great. We are healing, and it's all because of Naruto. Ayame looked shocked at the blonde boy in front of her and noticed he had a leaf headband on his right bicep. Hanabi then added, Naru came and saved us from the monster and then went out to fight it. Naruto corrected himself, feeling a little awkward in the spotlight and saying, I fought it with all my might but I still almost died. Though it was mostly because of the fox's resealing and unsealing, he has been trying to deny that he almost died ever since Hanabi and Hinata wept over him in his bloody, bruised state upon his return from the battle. I'm just grateful that the fox is gone and I survived, said the man. When Ayame and Tucci saw the young shinobi, they were in disbelief. How could someone so young defeat a demon of that age and come out alive? After setting 3 bowls of ramen in front of the group, Tucci said, "Eat up, kids. First bowl is on us." Naruto stared at the bowl in front of him as Hinata and Hanabi started to eat. He tried to remember if he had ever eaten at a restaurant before, but he couldn't remember. "I think this is the first time I've ever eaten at a restaurant," he thought. Then, picking up his chopsticks, Naruto started to eat. When he had finished his first bite, he turned to face Tucci and Ayame and softly remarked, "This is very good. Ramen is my favorite food, and this is the best I've ever eaten." Tucci and Ayame grinned at that. "Well, come back Naruto, we're always open," Ayame said, just as Naruto realized what he was up to. As he carried on eating, "Uchiha," Naruto declared, "I'm the adopted son of the new Hokage." Alongside Makoto and Fugaku. It had been a long day since the attack, and Fugaku and Makoto were finally relaxing in bed. Makoto was dozing off with her head resting on Fugaku's chest. The events of the previous few months had truly worn him down. He was exhausted by the coup, Sasuke's passing, Itachi's betrayal, and the Kyuubi. It didn't help that Fugaku was appointed as the new Hokage to fill the void left by Hiruzen's passing. After Makoto kissed him, Fugaku opened his eyes to see Makoto grinning softly and saying, "Good morning, my love." Fugaku then wrapped Makoto's arm around her and drew her closer to him. Fugaku greeted Makoto with a kiss on her forehead and said, "Good morning." He then turned to face the window and observed the calmness of the morning. As she got off of Fugaku and got out of bed, she said, "Yes, it is." Makoto, putting on her clothes, asked, "How is Naruto and your experiment going?" And Fugaku, following his wife's lead, started to put on his clothes as well. "Excellent," Fugaku exclaimed, fastening his police jacket. "Tetsuo says we should be done by tomorrow and ready the day after." Makoto cast a worried glance at him. "Will Naruto be alright?" she inquired. "I know he's willing to do it, but will there be any negative effects?" she inquired. Then Fugaku approached Makoto and encircled him with his arms. "Naruto will be fine," he declared. "He survived being unsealed and resealed with the Kyuubi. He can most definitely handle it. I would not risk the life of my son recklessly," said he. Makoto, who was still a little anxious, nodded her head before putting her katana on her back and making her way to the door. "I'll be away for a while," she turned around and said, "I'm going to see if Hinata and Hanabi want to have a mother-daughter day out." Naruto said he was going with Hinata and Hanabi this morning. They should be back home by now. Fugaku laughed. Makoto huffed as he said, "You've only known those girls for 2 weeks and you already adopted them." She held her hands to her hips and remarked, "Those girls have no role model. They need a positive influence in their lives. Both of those girls had that bastard Hiyashi as a father." She said, "I'm just doing what you did for Naruto," and shut the door. After gathering his belongings, Fugaku started to leave the house and make his way to the Hokage Tower. He recapped what Makoto had said to him and reminisced about his time spent with Naruto. Instructing Naruto in hand 2. Hand fighting, kunai throwing, literacy, and embarking on missions to eliminate bandits beyond Konoha. Gazing at the Hokage monument, Fugaku grinned at the memories. "Naruto, you will take my place as Hokage and continue the legacy we have built," he thought to himself as he made his way to the Hokage Tower. Alongside Sai. Though it had been a few weeks since Shin's death, Sai was still grieving deeply for his brother. He was sketching another picture of him. He crumpled the paper and tossed it aside as he botched the drawing once more. With a sigh, Sai started gathering his sketching supplies. He then heard someone crying and moved in that direction. When he arrived at the scene of the crying, he noticed a pink-haired girl crying behind a tree with a red ribbon around her eyes. Seeing no harm in her, Sai made the decision to show himself. "I heard you crying and I thought you might be hurt," he said with a fake smile. "Salutations, miss," making the girl jump. A little frightened by the pale boy, the girl said, "No, I'm not hurt. I'm crying because Amaya, my mommy and daddy died," she continued, causing Sai to grin. "I was staying at my friend Ino's house and the monster destroyed my house and killed my parents," she continued, wiping her tears with a handkerchief. "Ino and her mom are letting me live with them, but I'm still sada. I miss them," the girl uttered. Taking in a deep breath, Sai gazed at the girl in tears and said, "I too lost someone." To catch her attention, he added, "I recently lost my brother Shin." Even though we were not blood-related, he was still the closest thing I had to a family. Then, he pulled out a sketchbook and displayed a drawing of Shin. The girl asked, "Do you have anyone?" Sai nodded in response, "A friend or anybody else?" With a small, sincere smile, Sai replied, "I do," referring to his friend Naruto. "Even though we haven't been friends for very long, I think of him as my best friend." The girl with pink hair gave the boy a slight flush as she got to her feet and said, "Well, if you'd like, we could be friends," surprising Sai. As Sai gazed upon the girl, it occurred to her that Naruto had become much happier since the two Hyuga girls moved in with him. "Yes, that sounds good," he said, extending his hand. "My name is Sai. What's yours?" "Sakura Haruno," she uttered, clutching the boy's hands and shaking her stomach before groaning and adopting a sheepish expression. "Do you want to go eat?" replied Sai. "I have a little bit of money if you don't have any." "That would be fantastic," she said, her melancholy disposition giving way to joy. After exchanging stories about their deceased loved ones, Sakura and Sai started to stroll back into the village, finding comfort in each other's companionship. After a week, Otogakure. Alongside Fu. When two of the legendary Sannin Jiraiya and Tsunade came to Takigakure to seek assistance, Fu was sitting in her room in the village hidden in the sound. Little did she know that she would be involved in whatever scheme they were hatching. Because of the chome that was sealed inside of her, Fu hasn't had the best life possible. For as long as she can remember, her village has rejected and hated her. She was perplexed as to why the villagers failed to recognize that she was only the vessel and not the demon. The elders of the village had sealed the back of her neck with a seal before they left to make sure Jiraiya had control over her. She then moved her hand to the seal. It served as a beacon as well, ensuring that she would be found and apprehended if she ever attempted to flee. Fu then balled herself up and started to cry in private, hoping that whatever reason she was taken away would end quickly so she could return to her life of seclusion. Alongside Gaara. Gaara said to no one in particular, "Yes, mother, don't worry. I'll find more victims, I'll kill more enemies, and I'll make sure I survive." While Jiraiya of the Sannin visited Suna to seek support in attempting to retake Konoha from the Uchiha clan, Gaara sat by himself in his room in Oto. The boy was unstable, but he was Suna's most potent military weapon and would provide Jiraiya and his allies with a much needed wild card in the impending battle, so the Case Cage agreed to help out by sending Gaara. The only thing the Case Cage asked in return was land better suited for farming and one of Konoha's bloodlines. Jiraiya needed all the assistance he could get, so he grudgingly accepted the terms. Gaara then sat in a meditative position, his gourd turning to sand and starting to circle him. Alongside Jiraiya. Jiraiya was up against Might Guy, Asuma Sarutobi, Tsunade, Itachi, Orochimaru, and Tenzo, the Anbu agent known as Yamato. Asuma was discovered by Itachi and Shizune in the capital of the Fire Country. After learning that his father had been slain and that the Uchiha clan had taken over Konoha, he resigned from his position as a Guardian 12 member and joined Jiraiya. Jiraiya and Tsunade happened to stumble upon Might Guy while he was on a mission in the Land of Rivers, having left the Leaf Village. He immediately agreed to join Jiraiya and Tsunade in their endeavor when they asked for his help. All he could hope was that his old foe Kakashi was still alive. Last but not least, Yamato was discovered when he fled Konoha soon after the coup. He managed to elude several Uchiha and Anbu in his pursuit. Although he was not thrilled to be collaborating with Orochimaru because of the experiments that caused him great suffering as a child, he was more than happy to team up since the Uchiha appeared to pose a greater threat. As you all know, 3 weeks ago, the Uchiha clan, led by Fugaku, launched a coup during the Kyuubi attack. While I do think that the attack and the coup were connected, I do not think that it was Fugaku's intention to let the beast loose on the village, Jiraiya said, grabbing everyone's attention. "Now that we have you all here, we can begin," he said, getting everyone to nod in agreement because they all thought Fugaku could not be that callous. But that being said, I do believe Fugaku was partly responsible due to the fact that Naruto. The missing Kyuubi container was present during the attack and assisted Fugaku during the coup, he said while raising his hand. Asuma asked, perplexed, "You said this Naruto kid was missing. Why was he there, and what does this have to do with Fugaku?" Guy, Yamato, and Asuma stared at him in disbelief as he declared, "I believe Fugaku kidnapped the boy, brainwashed him, and has been using him as an agent for the past couple years." Itachi was both angry and guilty when he learned from Jiraiya that his father had been using Naruto as a weapon, angry at his father for taking advantage of a helpless little boy, and guilty because it had been going on for years without his knowledge. Itachi could have taken action if he had learned about it sooner. Orochimaru said, "We have to worry about defeating Fugaku and his clan before they begin whatever they are planning," to which Jiraiya glared back. "We don't have time to worry about that brat Jiraiya," he continued, and Jiraiya nodded. Jiraiya nodded as everyone agreed. "Yes," he said, steeling himself. "From what I've been able to gather, Konoha is still shaken up from the attack. Lots of shinobi are dead or injured, which means the village's defenses are weakened." Jiraiya continued, "So we must strike soon before Iwa or Kumo decide to take the initiative and invade." Guy asked Jiraiya, "So, what do you propose we do?" As she was speaking. As everyone stared at Jiraiya in fear, he uttered, "In 3 days we attack the Leaf Village, remove the Uchiha from power, rescue Naruto, and restore order. While we may be attacking the Leaf, we are only doing what is necessary to save it. Our biggest threats in the village are Fugaku Uchiha, Shibi Aburame, Makoto Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki. Once we kill Fugaku, Shibi, and Makoto and free Naruto, the village resistance will crumble and we can take the village without issue," he stated. There was no other way to remove the Uchiha, so everyone in the room nodded silently in agreement. Yamato then raised his voice and asked, "What do we have in terms of people and logistics?" Tsunade responded, "We have 2,000 sound shinobi from the rank of Genin to Junin. Suna and Taki both lent us their demon vessels under the condition that they be returned upon the mission's completion. We have 4 rank ninja, 5. A rank ninja along with a multitude of other skilled shinobi," she said while everyone was staring at her. "But still," Tsunade went on, "we are facing about 5,000 Konoha shinobi, Fugaku a cage-level ninja, Shibi Aburame and Makoto Uchiha 2 class shinobi, and Naruto the vessel of the 9 tails. Let me be clear that Fugaku is on par with Minato Namikaze, and Naruto hold the most powerful of the tailed beasts. In all honesty, our chances of victory isn't certain, so we must ensure that either Naruto or Fugaku is taken out first to even the playing field," she said with a nod. Jiraiya nodded, agreeing to the plan, and said, "I agree. With the 1 tail and the 7 tails we have a chance of beating him if he used the fox's power. Gaara and Fu will be under Yamato's command and tasked with taking Naruto out of the fight. While that is happening, me, Tsunade, Orochimaru and Itachi will take out Fugaku. I hope that with our combined strength we can defeat him, or at least hold him off long enough for Naruto to lend us his power," he said. When Orochimaru asked, "When do we commence the operation?" Jiraiya turned to face his former comrade. "We've already given them 3 weeks, Jiraiya replied. "The longer we wait, the more difficult it will be." Orochimaru gave a nod and started to leave. As he shut the door behind him, he remarked, "I have some last preparations to finish. It will be our backup plan just in case something goes wrong." Jiraiya did not enjoy working with Orochimaru, but he was willing to do so in order to save Naruto, so he felt a shiver down his spine when he saw Orochimaru leave the room. After giving the remaining attendees a quick glance, Jiraiya declared, "Meeting dismissed. Go prep yourselves for the operation," and they all started to leave. As he made his way back to his quarters, Jiraiya thought, "Be patient, Naruto. I'm coming to rescue you." Nobody in the room realized, but there was a tiny beetle there the entire time. In Konoha concurrently. While Hinata was brewing some tea, Naruto was in his living room sharpening his sword, and Hanabi was asleep, giving them some alone time. He flexed his bandaged left hand, looking at it. Naruto returned to sharpening his sword, thinking, "I hope it gets better soon. I can only practice for about 2 hours before it starts hurting." He was still a little stiff. As she walked up to Naruto, Hinata said, "Why?" "Your tea, Naruto," giving him his cup. Naruto grinned and said, "Thank you, Hinata. Having Hinata around always made my day better." Then Naruto recalled that Makoto used to frequently assist Fugaku in the same way while he was employed by the Hokage Tower. Gazing at Hinata, Naruto complimented her, saying, "You will definitely make a great wife someday," before turning his attention back to sharpening his sword. Had he seen Hinata, he would have witnessed a crimson-skinned girl making her way to the dining room table to gather her thoughts before answering, "Wife? Me?" Glancing back at the fair-haired boy, she thought, "Naruto wants me to be his wife. It's too early, but I like him. We hardly know one another, she thought as a gazillion possibilities shot into her head. Unaware that they were both awake, Hanabi overheard the entire exchange. Naru wants to marry Big Sister, she thought to herself, no way I'm going to marry Naru and that's that, as she crept back to her room. Then, Naruto experienced an odd feeling, but he quickly dismissed it because he didn't feel ill-willed or malicious. He sheathed his sword and got ready for bed as he glanced back at his hand and thought, I pray to God I never have to use this. Within Naruto's chamber, Naruto shut his eyes as he went to bed, and while he slept, an inexplicable nightmare tormented him. The giant beetle and the nine-tailed fox were locked in a stare-down until the Kyuubi uttered words. As the beetle was speaking, Kyuubi asked, Shomei, what brings you here? The beetle turned to face Naruto, who was frozen with fear. Kurama. We came to talk to you and your host, it said. Do not be afraid, child. I come to give you a warning. Naruto looked confused. In response, the beetle asked, a warning? About what? The beetle looked at Naruto interestedly and said, my host Fu is in peril. In 3 days' time she'll be forced to fight you against her will. Kyuubi started laughing as the beetle said, I beseech you do not kill her. She is not a wicked person like the vessel of the One-Tails. The Kyuubi roared, what a foolish request. My host will kill your insignificant vessel and... But then halted as Naruto turned on his Sharingan and started torturing the fox mentally. Naruto pivoted to face the beetle and offered a bow. He bowed, too, and the beetle said, I will try my hardest to help this girl Fu. Naruto nodded as the beetle spoke, I thank you good sir. And please keep Kurama on a tight leash, he has the most volatile personality. Then, feeling uncertain about whether or not what had just happened was a dream, Naruto woke up in a cold sweat. After giving himself a moment to gather himself, Naruto started putting on his clothes and hurried out of his house to tell Fugaku. Naruto thought, I don't know if that was real or not, but I'm not going to take any chances. Alongside Fu. When Fu awoke from her meditation, she looked around her room and asked herself, did it work? In her head, Fu shed a tear of happiness as the Seven Tails answered, yes, child. I told the host about the Nine Tails. He agreed to help free you from your bondage of servitude. The Seven Tails said, rest now, Fu. A girl needs her rest. Fu smiled as she went to bed and dozed off because she knew that she would soon be free at last. On a hilltop, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Itachi were gazing off into the distance where they could make out Konoha. As he hit the button on his intercom, Jiraiya said, okay, it's time. Yamato, move into the eastern village walls. Tell both Fu and Gaara to prepare to transform and destroy the Uchiha compound. Over the intercom, Yamato said, copy Lord Jiraiya. Asuma, Guy, Jiraiya went on, both of you attack the western wall with your troops and try to punch through. Gain control of the Hokage Tower, the hospital and the Anbu headquarters, Jiraiya said. Take a copy, Asuma uttered. Guy yelled over the intercom, with the power of youth we will free the village and restore hope and security to the people, which caused Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru to start perspiring. Turning to face Itachi, Jiraiya remarked, we will attack the front gate to act as a diversion. With the element of surprise we will be able to have the advantage for a few minutes. I hope you are ready to face Fugaku. We can't win without killing him, Jiraiya replied. Father has brought this upon himself, Itachi stated. The reign of the Uchiha, however short it was, ends today, he replied. Jiraiya inhaled deeply and nodded. With a silent prayer, Kami grant me strength, Jiraiya led the way, followed by Tsunade, Itachi, Orochimaru, and half of the Sound Army. Alongside Guy and Asuma. Asuma felt that this mission was personal, so he and Guy were taking positions with their Sound Shinobi to launch their attack. Even though Asuma and his father had a troubled past, he still loved him and would go above and beyond to uphold his father's legacy, even though he wasn't the best son. Then Asuma stopped Guy and the soldiers who were pursuing him. Guy inquired, what's wrong? As Asuma heard a buzzing sound and turned to look around. Asuma cried out, ambush. As Guy, him, and the other Sound Shinobi started to fight the enemy. The peaceful night quickly descended into an orgy of mayhem and violence. Insects, senbon, shuriken, kunai, and jutsu were attacking men left and right. Asuma looked around and saw that the opposing side had two strong clans and more experienced ninja, despite their superior numerical advantage. Aburame, Uchiha, and other ninja, numbering at least 200, were making mincemeat of the Sound Army. "Asuma, Guy, it's great to see you," Makoto Uchiha exclaimed as she and Shibi Aburame and Izumi Uchiha made an appearance. Makoto shook her head. "How low, Asuma, betraying and attacking your own village with an army of foreign shinobi." "For shame," Asuma growled. Drawing his trench knives, Asuma declared, "We're here to liberate the leaf from your clutches." As his buds started to emerge from his body, Shibi lamented, "Unfortunately, that's not how history will see it. It's only logical that we will be the victor. As the saying goes, history is written by the victor." Guy assumed a fighting stance and declared, "We will put an end to your tyranny and restore order." "You say that, but all you did was cause chaos at our front door," Izumi said, drawing her sword and bringing her Sharingan to life. Makoto pulled out her sword and gave the order, "Shibi, Izumi. You two take Asuma." "I'll handle Guy," she said, activating her Mangekyu Sharingan and revealing a pattern of a quadruple pinwheel. Not long after Sasuke's death, her Mangekyu Sharingan became active. Despite not having enough time to learn how to use it, she now has reasonable control over it and intends to utilize it to the fullest. Makoto tried to slash the guy, but he pulled out his nun chucks to block her blade. Makoto charged at him. After using a fire jutsu to make the bug wielder dodge, Asuma engaged Izumi in a blade fight. Asuma thought to himself as he ducked under a stabbing attack, "God, how can this plan go wrong any more than it has?" Alongside Itachi, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya. Gazing at the commanding figure of Fugaku Uchiha with 200 Uchiha, Aburame, Anbu, and a beaming Anko Mitarashi, were Jiraiya, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Itachi. "So this is how you return home." As invaders instead of guardians, Fugaku responded, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen. We are here to rescue Naruto and this village from your grasp," Jiraiya declared. "You Uchiha have gone too far. We will stop you here and now before you can continue your plans." Fugaku shot Jiraiya a look that suggested he was the world's biggest moron. With a furious expression on his face, Fugaku asked, "What plans, you buffoon? All we wanted was equal status, to not be discriminated against, to be a part of Konoha again instead of being kicked to the curb." Jiraiya became very interested in what he was saying. "We don't have plans for world domination, we are not going to go on some genocidal campaign. We are not monsters, we are those who've been tossed aside. The Uchiha were one of the founding clans of Konoha, we deserve an equal voice, equal treatment and for our family to prosper," Fugaku said. Jiraiya dismissed those remarks, saying that treason is treason, no matter how it is committed. Gazing at the assembly, Orochimaru noticed Anko and grinned. Orochimaru addressed Anko, calling him, "Dear little Anko. Are you here to kill your sensei?" He teased, adding, "It's time to see you put into your place once again." He sealed his lips with his hand. He was expecting to see Anko on the ground, in excruciating pain, but instead he saw her standing there, looking slightly annoyed. Next, Orochimaru sealed the curse mark around her neck with a seal. Orochimaru became a little uneasy as Anko smirked and apologized, saying, "Sorry sensei." The scroll of forbidden jutsu had some great sealing jutsu. Now it feels like a bee sting. When the coup occurred, Anko was not in the village. She was about to fight Uchiha Fugaku, but he won her over by giving her the two things she had always desired. Her curse mark sealed, she had the chance to murder Orochimaru, the man who had betrayed her. Tsunade felt the weight of the whole world on her shoulders as she stared at the small army in front of her. Senju has not faced the Uchiha clan's grandfather. Lend me your strength, since her grandfather Hashirama. As Itachi activated his imperfect Susanoo and Sharingan, and Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru summoned Gamabunta, Manda, and Katsuyu, Fugaku declared, "Enough chatter," and they began their battle. Alongside Yamato. When Yamato, Fu, and Gaara arrived at the spot where they were supposed to start their portion of the plan, Fu was frantically searching the area for the supposed Nine Tails container. "Fu, are you okay?" Yamato inquired. "Prepare for our onslaught," he replied. A voice said, "You are not going to attack nothing." Naruto ordered Sai to keep Yamato occupied for a moment as he emerged from the shadows. With a nod, Sai made 2 ink tigers and dispatched them to Yamato. "Hello Tenzo," Sai greeted Yamato with a fake smile. I'm sorry, but I'll be your opponent for the time being, he added before leaping toward Yamato while holding a tanto. After destroying the two ink creations with his wood style, Yamato pulled out a kunai and started fighting Sai. When Naruto saw Yamato and Sai leave, he was fixated on the redhead boy and the terrified looking girl with mint hair. Geez, I'm glad I didn't turn out like him. I can't imagine being as crazy as him, Naruto thought to himself. In the universe of Fox Creek. Fucking hell. I better not be getting sick, Naruto wiped his nose and sneezed. Where was Ia? Oh yeah, he said, peering down at the sobbing, gagged woman who was trying desperately to break free of her shackles. Pointing to the disfigured bodies of her husband, son, and daughter, he said, sorry love, I didn't mean to keep you waiting. You'll be joining them soon enough. Next time you decide to steal someone's wagon, you better be sure he isn't me, he added, drawing his knife. She could only scream in a muffled way as he started to skin her face, but he said, now hold still beautiful. Don't want to damage your face before I get it off. Returning to the narrative. Don't worry, I'll help you both, Naruto said, gesturing to the girl, Fu, as sand started to gather around Gaara as he uncorked his gourd. Gaara remarked, your death will appease mother, as Fu started to slowly back away. Naruto sighed and turned on his Sharingan in his eye. As he lifted the bandages from his left hand to reveal a second Sharingan implanted there and raised it to cover his left eye, Naruto remarked, I guess I will have to use this then. After Fugaku and Tetsuo implanted Obito's second eye using Danzo's wood style prosthetics, Naruto was able to fully utilize the Mangekyo and now had both his right and left eyes. Naruto uttered the words, Tsukuyomi, as Fu and Gaara both succumbed to the jutsu after meeting eyes alongside Fu in the Tsukuyomi realm. As Fu looked around in fear, he noticed that everything was black and white except for the sky, which was red. Naruto then appeared a few feet away and said, you are safe and time is irrelevant. Here I control time. He then sat down. Fu took a seat in front of Naruto and studied his features, two mismatched eyes, 3 whisker marks on each side of his face, and long blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail. Fu asked, you are the one Chomei reached out to, and Naruto nodded. Fu looked at Naruto with wide eyes. Yes. Your Biju begged me to save you from the clutches of those who wish to enslave you, Naruto said. I do not wish to kill anyone unnecessarily. Therefore I will free you, and once this battle is over you can leave. Fu then looked happy, then sad. Fu said in a dejected tone, but if I leave then I'll be hunted down for my Biju. I will never be safe. Naruto gave her a thoughtful moment during which. Then you can stay, Naruto said in shock. I have taken in several people who have had nowhere to go. You can live with me. I'm sure Hinata and Hanabi would love to have a friend who isn't me or Sai. Fu asked, do you promise? Because he could see no dishonesty in Naruto's eyes or hate in his words. Naruto truly wanted to help her. Naruto held out his hand and said, I promise you on my life, Fu. After she accepted it and stood up, Naruto dragged her along as he started to walk in an erratic direction. Naruto looked at Fu and said, you must have had a hard life like me. Care to talk about it? As Fu started to cry. I never experienced physical or psychological abuse, Fu started, but my village disregarded me and forced me to live in isolation. I never. Fu started talking to Naruto about her life, and he listened. They were walking in the same direction with no particular destination, both still holding hands. Alongside Gaara. Shukaku screamed, what the fuck are you doing here, boy? You should not be in here knowing what's going on, as Gaara, lost in his own mindscape, stared at him in all his Biju horror. Naruto approached Shukaku, who was a few feet away, and said, I brought him here to see you. To show him that you are not, mother. Just a creature manipulating a young tainted mind. Shukaku started giggling. Shukaku started, but he stopped when Naruto teleported to his nose and peered into the 2 blazing Sharingans in front of his face. So, what? What are you going to do about it? You're a puny human, you cannot. Shukaku went from being pliable to immobile, gazing blankly into the distance. Now terrified of the blonde boy, Gaara questioned, what did you do to mother? I put it to sleep so you can use its powers without hearing the voices, Naruto said, pinching the bridge of his nose. It's not your mother, you delusional fool, he added, referring to the giant tanuki that was playing mind games, probably as a result of your terrible seal. Then Gaara went to his knees. It wasn't mother, Gaara said, breaking down in tears. I killed so many, I've done such horrible things. My life was always killing, he continued, sobbing. What am I to do now? He asked. After realizing that he had no purpose in life, he felt a hand touch his shoulder. I can give you a new reason to live, Naruto stated. Fight for me, for my village, for true peace and equality. With you by my side we can ensure that no more monsters like us will ever be created, said Naruto. Gaara stopped crying and got up, still staring at the blonde boy. He said, yes, yes. I think that can work, to which Naruto responded with a smile and a raised hand. Brother, welcome home, Naruto grinned sincere. Alongside Sai. In all honesty, Sai doubted he could hold out against Yamato for more than 2 minutes in a kunai battle, but he knew he had to keep him occupied while Naruto dealt with the other two containers. As Yamato prepared to launch himself into another sandstorm, he saw Gaara approaching and leapt out of the way. Gaara, what are you doing? Yamato yelled, meeting Gaara's blank stare in return. Aiding my new brother, Gaara uttered in a monotone. Before Yamato could reply, he witnessed Fu expel a glittering material from her lips, which subsequently caused him to become blind. Now blind, Yamato screamed in agony, but Naruto cut short his scream when he severed his head. After Yamato's body hit the ground, Naruto made a clone, sealed it up, and gave the order to bring it back inside the house for safekeeping. Naruto nodded as Sai approached him, perplexed. When you said keep him busy for a minute, you really meant for a whole minute, he asked, causing Fu and Gaara to widen their eyes. What? Fu exclaimed. We spoke for hours. You told me about your life, and I told you mine, Fu said. Naruto laughed at their antics and said, you went over strategies and tactics with me, which surprised Gaara just as much. He said, time is nothing in the Tsukuyomi, but then he became serious. Sai, you and Gaara go and assist Makoto, Naruto commanded, and the two boys fled, Sai leading the way, Gaara trailing behind. Alongside Sai and Gaara. You are correct, Gaara, Sai said, and Gaara nodded. My name is Sai. Let me extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you, said Gaara. After a moment of contemplation, Sai spoke. Are you involved romantically with a woman? Sai inquired. Yes, Gaara replied, shaking his head. That's great. My lover Sakura has a friend named Ino. I think it would be great to introduce you as she's looking for a cute boy to date, he continued. For a minute, Gaara appeared perplexed. I think it's possible, but I might need your help because I'm not good with people, Gaara said. Sai laughed and took out a book on how to communicate with people. Sai smiled and put the book away, saying, I'm learning too, so let's support each other in this endeavor. But after this battle would probably be best as when to start. He and Gaara then hurried off to their next battle. Alongside Fu and Naruto. Naruto reached out and said, Fu grab on. Fu grabbed it and held on tightly. After that, Naruto ushered them to where Fugaku was. As Fugaku saw Naruto and the person he thought was Fu arrive at the battle, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Itachi grinned. Jiraiya exclaimed, Naruto, you're here. It's over, Fugaku. Naruto is free from your clutches. You low. Jiraiya started, but then he ducked under a fireball fired by Naruto. Orochimaru laughed at the boy's remarks when Naruto remarked, I always read you were an idiot, but to think you were this moronic is insulting to all sentient life. Jiraiya said emphatically, Naruto, you are being controlled by Fugaku. Please listen. This is not you. Naruto gave him a sidelong glance. Naruto shocked his four enemies by saying, I am doing this of my own free will, and Tsunade raised her voice. She yelled, Naruto, how can you do this? What about the village, how could you betray it? Until Naruto gave her a stern look that silenced her. Naruto shouted, Konoha is not my home. It's just a place to me. My true home is wherever father and mother are. Fugaku grinned even more at his son's remarks. The village that neglected me, that beat me, that made me feel worthless. And I find your word hilarious. Since you abandoned the village and went on a decade-long bender. Let's face it, Tsunade, you were a weak, broken woman. And it's time that the Senju line ends, he said while wielding his weapon. Jiraiya yelled, Naruto, This is not what Lord Hokage would have wanted, nor what your parents would have wanted, just as Naruto started to laugh. Jiraiya paled when Naruto said, that's what that fool said as well. Before I put this sword in his chest. Naruto killed Hiruzen. And I do not care about Minato or Kushina. They never raised me, or trained me or loved me. Those names are nothing to me. I am Naruto Uchiha, adoptive son of the 5th Hokage Fugaku Uchiha, proudly declared Naruto. Jiraiya dejectedly cast a downward glance, realizing that Naruto or whoever he was hoping to Sevilla had long since passed away. Tsunade was crying now. She had lost her only link to her distant relative Kushina due to her cowardice and pain. Then Orochimaru started giggling at the exhibit. He produced 2 scrolls and declared, this is too rich. It's not polite to insult the dead boy, he added, making hand gestures and smearing blood on the scrolls as he opened them. So how about to the undead? He exclaimed. Orochimaru yelled, summoning jutsu, reanimation, as he slammed both scrolls into the ground and 2 coffins emerged. When Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Itachi saw the coffins open, they all appeared alarmed by what they saw. The 2 figures emerged from the coffins and turned to face the outside world. Where are we? The woman inquired. My love is unknown to me, the man uttered. Orochimaru turned to face Naruto and said, you are outside Konoha, grabbing both of their attention. But that doesn't matter, look over there, he continued. Now that his life has become more complicated, Naruto cursed in his head. The woman asked, grinning, Minato, is that Naruto? As she peered at the fair-haired boy. I believe so, Kushina, he grinned, turning to face his son. Naruto. Baby I. Kushina uttered up until Naruto struck her in the chest with a kunai. Kushina's joyful expression vanished as she met her son's angry, hateful face, which was aimed at both her and Minato. Naruto cried, I will enjoy sending you 2 back to the afterlife. Knowing the one who sent you there was the child whose life you ruined, as his Sharingan started to spin. Minato Namikaze, Kushina Uzumaki. The 2 responsible for all my misery and suffering, Naruto said, as Minato was struck with fear. Naruto was staring at Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, the 2 people he detested the most. In his eyes, they were equally responsible for making his life a living hell as Hiruzen and Danzo. Minato pleaded, please listen to us. We don't want to hurt you. Naruto darkly remarked, that's a shame, because I really want to hurt you. As Naruto scowled at her, Kushina pleaded, please, we are your parents. Naruto angrily declared, you are not my parents. Fugaku and Makoto Uchiha are my parents. I don't even know you two. At Naruto's words, Kushina felt her heart begin to shatter. She had loved him before he was even born, but there was no love in his voice or eyes for her or Minato. Minato started, Naruto, please listen, this is not right. Please stop, think of the village and... But Naruto started laughing. The village, Naruto laughed, you mean the village that starved me, beat me, made me their outlet for their grief. The village means nothing to me, neither does the villagers. The only things I care about is the Uchiha clan, Hinata and Hanabi and my friend Sai. Everything else does not matter, he said. Minato then turned to Jiraiya. Minato inquired, what is he talking about, sensei? Jiraiya approached Minato and Kushina and bowed his head in humiliation. Jiraiya spoke, Kushina grabbed him by the throat and held him off the ground. Saruto announced Naruto as the Nine Tails in the hopes that the village would see him as a savior and a hero. Instead, the village hated and shunned him. Kushina screamed, then where the fuck were you? You were his goddamn godfather. You should have been there. Then, Kushina sensed a surge of murderous intent emanating from Naruto, whose appearance grew even more menacing. Naruto gritted his teeth and said, you are telling me I had a godfather this whole time? I could have had someone to take care of me. Jiraiya, Minato, and Kushina all turned to stare at Naruto. Naruto thought as Kushina and Jiraiya were drawn into a vortex, you know what? I was planning on taking my time to kill you, but now. Fuck it. Naruto said, activating his Mangekyo Sharingan, Kamui. Jiraiya and Kushina were teleported away, and Minato, who had just thrown a kunai, Hiroshined away. Alongside Jiraiya and Kushina. As soon as Kushina and Jiraiya stood up, they saw something that startled and perplexed them, an endless space with a dark sky and rectangular buildings encircling them. Jiraiya grunted in response to Kushina's question, "Where are we?" He proceeded through hand signals and slammed his hand down on the ground, saying, "Don't know, I'll reverse summonus Mount Myoboku then back to the battle," but nothing happened. He gave it another go, and then another. Now that he was in a panic, Jiraiya turned to face Kushina and said, "I can't reverse summonus," scaring the latter into thinking, "We're trapped." Alongside Minato. Minato turned to face Naruto, who was covering his hand's eye. "Naruto, what did you do? Where is Kushina and Sensei?" Minato demanded, glancing at the location where Kushina and Jiraiya had once been. "They're in the Kamui dimension, aboard." Sounding Naruto uttered. "Unless I bring them back, which isn't going to happen," he continued. After that, Naruto turned to face Fugaku, telling him, "I'm going to handle Minato father." Fugaku nodded and turned back to Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Itachi. "Excellent, but move quickly," Fugaku remarked. "I'll take care of Itachi." Then Fu stepped forward and summoned her one-tail cloak of chakra, saying, "I'll handle," as she turned to face the female Sannin. Anko emerged from beneath a heap of snakes, removed her trenchcoat, and produced 2 ninjutsu. With a menacing grin, Anko said, "I'm here for Orochimaru, so stay out of my way unless you want to be next." When Naruto saw this, he charged at Minato, and as they left the area, they were engaged in blade combat. Alongside Makoto. Guy and Makoto were engaged in combat in a separate area from the main fighting, and it appeared that they were fighting evenly. While the guy was on the 3rd gate and unwilling to push it any farther, Makoto was going all out and using her MS. Guy saw Makoto about to attack when she noticed a wave of sand fall onto his position. Guy quickly jumped out of the way, landed, and saw the attacker a little red-headed boy. With a glance at Makoto, the young boy said, "Makoto Uchiha." "That is me, young man. Who may you be?" she inquired, and Gaara bowed. Makoto appeared surprised when Gaara replied, "Subaku no Gaara. The One-Tails container. I was instructed by Naruto to assist you in your battle. I hope you do not mind my intrusion," he said in a monotone voice. Gaara nodded in silence as Makoto nodded and said, "I will appreciate it. But please do not risk your life needlessly for my stake." Following the attack, Guy leapt out of the way in time to avoid Makoto's fireball as he rushed at the two and attempted to kick Gaara. However, his kick was blocked by a wall of sand. "It's concerning," Guy pondered. Makoto Uchiha was demonstrating her deadly nature, even Morea her skill level was second only to Kushina Uzumaki. Not to mention that Gaara would prove to be a particularly difficult opponent because she was the container of the One Tail. As he crossed his arms, Guy thought to himself, "I guess I have no choice." 4th gate, 5th gate, 6th gate, 7th gate open, Guy said to himself in his head as he opened the gates and felt his power leave his body. His complexion flushed red, and his chakra became evident to all. When Gaara saw this, he became anxious and thought, "I have to transform." As his sand swirled around him, he changed into a small shukaku. As he assumed a fighting stance, Gaara thought, "I hope I'm powerful enough to hold him off." Makoto called forth her flawed Susanoo, which had the same light blue-green color and wielded a sword as she did. Makoto called out to the boy who had changed, "Gaara. We need to work together. It's the only way we are going to beat him," she said, and the boy nodded. Guy disappeared into thin air, and Gaara fired a hail of sand shuriken at him. Guy then kicked Gaara in the side, sending her flying into a tree. After that, Guy deflected a sword strike from Makoto using her Susanoo, and Makoto punched Guy using her Susanoo, but Guy deflected it with his arm. Then Gaara slapped Guy with her tail, and a wind gust came flying out of Gaara's mouth. "It's going to be tough, isn't it?" Gaara questioned Makoto as Guy emerged from the hole he was in by popping his shoulder back into position. "Sadly, yes," Makoto remarked. Alongside Sai. After avoiding another blow from Asuma's trench knife, Sai used his tanto to cut the Junin in his flak jacket. Just a short while ago, Sai showed up and is helping Izumi because Shibi lost most of his hive and had to retreat. Asuma went through the hand signals for fire style, burning ash, very rapidly. He then shot thick black smoke out of his mouth and made a spark by biting his teeth together, which ignited the smoke and created a huge explosion. Izumi landed next to Sai after Asuma witnessed him emerge from the fire with a burn on his left arm. Izumi asked, "Are you okay? Is your arm okay?" Sai shook his head. After the battle, everything will be alright, Sai said, observing Asuma assume a defensive posture. Izumi, we must perform the routine, Sai cryptically remarked. Izumi lifted her sword and nodded. Izumi said, let's do this. Using his teeth to grip his tanto, Sai unfolded his scroll and unleashed 2 ink lions that lunged towards Asuma. When Asuma realized that Sai and Izumi were coming at him and making slashing motions, he used his trench knives to kill the lions. Asuma blocked Sai's tanto with his right hand, waiting for his left hand to make contact, but he never did. Izumi then performed a backflip, flying over Asuma and landing behind him. Then, with her katana piercing the front of Asuma's chest, Izumi gave him a backstab. When Izumi drew her sword and Asuma coughed up blood, he fell to the ground, clutching his chest and staring up at the sky. Then Asuma saw his mother's face, a sight he never expected to see again. It was a good fight, son, Bawako said. Asuma reached out and grasped her hand. Mom, Shaw, it's okay, son. Come with me, your father and brother are waiting for you, she replied. Asuma sobbed a few times before he coughed again, his mouth gushing blood. Asuma closed his eyes, felt his body shiver, and his vision went black. As she watched the light go out of Asuma's eyes while holding his hand, Izumi thought, he imagined seeing his mother before he died. Then, she forced his hand away from hers, folded both of his hands on his chest, and closed his eyes. She then brought both of her hands together and closed her eyes, silently praying, rest in peace, Asuma Sarutobi. Izumi, Sai said to get the girl's attention. Should we pursue? The enemy forces are retreating, Sai questioned. No, Izumi responded. Let them run. Let's get your arm checked. Let's gather up the dead and wounded and regroup. Just as she turned to walk away, she noticed Asuma was using 2 trench knives, so she grabbed them. She made the silent promise, I will make sure someone worthy wields these blades, as she and Sai departed the scene, leaving Asuma lying in the grass looking serene. With Gaara and Makoto. Guy struck Gaara again, this time powerfully enough to cause his sand transformation to break off. Guy then avoided a blow from Makoto's sword. Makoto had stopped using her Susanoo because it was too hard on her. On the other hand, Guy was slowing down because his gates were wearing off because the time limit was closing. Gaara attacked him again, but this time the man in green kicked him up into the air. Guy continued to kick until he was high enough in the air to wrap Gaara in his bandages and start spinning quickly toward the ground. The boy lay motionless as, primary lotus, Guy drove Gaara into the ground, causing the sand to fall around him. Makoto saw this and turned to face Guy. Guy, she yelled, grabbing his attention. Let's end this, she said, assuming a low slashing stance. Guy, sensing that his body was about to give out, chose to try and finish this with a final blow. Guy and Makoto, the 2 combatants, experienced a brief moment of timelessness before launching themselves at each other. Guy was about to take down the matriarch of the Uchiha family when he stopped dead in his tracks and almost stumbled. He looked down and noticed that sand was holding his feet down. Using all of his remaining strength to keep Guy in place while fighting the agony, Gaara thought, finish him. Taking advantage of the situation, Makoto quickly slashed off Guy's head with her sword. As Gaara let go of the dead man's feet, Guy's lifeless body collapsed to the ground. Makoto hurried to Gaara and bent down to speak with him. She hurriedly asked, Gaara, are you okay? How bad are you hurting? Gaara winced as he met her gaze. I have never been in pain before. So I have no frame of reference, Gaara murmured, but I cannot move my body and my vision is blurry, he stated. Then Makoto put a hand to his cheek and shed a tear. I'll get you to the hospital, sweetie. You'll be fine, Makoto comforted Gaara, don't worry. Then, the sandy, damaged battleground vanished behind them in a flurry of leaves. Alongside Anko. The 2 were evenly matched in their blade. On. Blade battle. Anko teased Orochimaru, saying, not so strong without your little curse mark fucking with me or ya, as she kicked him in the stomach, knocking him out. This is terrible, Orochimaru thought to himself. She's improved a lot since I left Konoha, and I don't think I can handle this without help, he thought to himself as he advanced with his kusanagi and struck Anko, who dove under and struck Orochimaru's legs, landing a hit. Orochimaru screamed, damn it, as he slashed at Anko, who then leapt out of the way. Orochimaru then felt his leg begin to burn and looked down, the blood pouring out of his wound quickly coagulating into sickly purple veins. It's a special blend of poison from the late Torun Aburame. He may have been a bastard for working with Danzo, but he sure knew how to poison people. You like that, Orochimaru-sensei? Anko mockingly said to Orochimaru. By the way, it targets your chakra network, so you won't be losing skin anymore, Anko reaffirmed, assuming a combat stance prepared to engage in combat. Orochimaru growled, insolent child, I'll kill you and use your skeleton for a model, and he charged Anko again, locking blades with her. Alongside Fu. Tsunade was known for her super strength punches, but how the hell was she supposed to hit someone so high off the ground? Tsunade was out of her element, just as anyone else would be against the Seven Tails container. Fu was currently flying above Tsunade shooting webs at her. Fuck this, Tsunade yelled as she tore a tree from the ground and threw it at Fu, who managed to avoid it just in time with some aerial acrobatics. Fu yelled at Tsunade, are you crazy? You could have killed me, to which Tsunade responded with a tick mark on her forehead. Tsunade shot back, we're shinobi. We're supposed to kill each other. Tsunade stared at Fu, bewildered, but I'm not trying to kill you, I'm just trying to wound, maim, or restrain you, Fu yelled. She questioned, why the hell are you doing that? I never wanted to kill anyone, and I don't want to kill anyone now. All I ever wanted was to be a regular girl, not a shinobi. I won't kill you because you're not a bad person and you also don't want to be here. Tsunade glanced at the flying girl for a moment, letting down her guard. The only reason she was here was because Jiraiya had threatened to kill her. You're just as much of a victim as I am, Fu yelled. I give up, Tsunade said, looking up at Fu. Fu was shocked by this and questioned it for a minute before deciding to do something. Tsunade had nothing to gain from this battle, based on what Jiraiya and Naruto had said about the village. Tsunade nodded in agreement as Fu declared, I'm going to tie you up with my web and I will cut you loose once the battle is over. Tsunade said, okay, fine, and Fu shot forth a web that encircled her ankles and wrists. Tsunade then sat down on the ground, and Fu landed a short distance away. Fu remarked, there's no point in trying to fight it, because the web is going to be like a chakra restraining tag, as she took a seat next to Tsunade. With a sigh, Tsunade turned to face the sky and remarked, I need a drink after this. Fu turned to face her. Drinking is unhealthy, Fu declared, to Tsunade's amusement. Tsunade turned to face Fu and said, one day you'll discover the wonders of sake, but in the meantime, let's have some girl talk. Fu nodded. She chirped, okay, that sounds great. Tsunade asked, so do you think that Naruto boy is cute or no? As Fu blushed and turned away. I think that is a yes, Tsunade teased, making Fu blush even more. Using Fugaku. Itachi's sword broke, leaving him with no choice but to throw it away. Fugaku was more at ease using his fists over a kunai, which was working out quite well. Both Uchiha had used up their Susanos and were turning to more conventional fighting. Itachi struck Fugaku with a fist, but Fugaku countered with a kick to the ribs, forcing Itachi to exhale. Fugaku then grabbed Itachi's arm and threw him to the ground using judo. Fugaku then decided to follow up by grabbing the arm and snapping it at the elbow. Itachi cried out in pain as Fugaku released it and moved slowly away. Fugaku addressed his former son, Itachi, saying, you are a fool for fighting me, Itachi. I taught you nearly everything you knew. Itachi got up, holding his broken arm, and gave his father a glare. Fugaku shook his head, then suddenly materialized in front of Itachi and kicked him in his injured arm. You are the one who's the fool, father, Itachi said through the pain. You and the Uchiha clan are delusional. You cannot gain peace through deceit. As Itachi lay on the ground in agony once more, Fugaku remarked, that's how all this started, Itachi. The Uchiha believed Hashirama's lies, and what are we rewarded with being hated, discarded, and scapegoated? Fugaku said with a disappointed expression on his face, you and Shisui were going to kill your own clan because of your loyalty to a village that sees you and your brethren as traitors and monsters. Loyalty and lies, two things that go in hand to control Nave fools like you. Naruto is different, Itachi, Fugaku said as Itachi stood up again after healing. I never lied to him or him to me. He was left to fight for himself against the outside world after Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and the village abandoned him. When I told him the truth, I was rewarded with an apprentice, a confidant, and a son. He's more of a Uchiha than you ever were or ever could be. He dedicated his life to ensure the future of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku remarked. After drawing his kunai and resuming his fighting stance, Itachi yelled, "I will stop you, father." He was then punched, stripped of his weapon, and thrown into a tree. Fugaku walked over to Itachi and yelled, "I'm ready whenever you are." Alongside Naruto. Slashing at Minato, Naruto's sword just missed him. Minato then charged up a Rasengan, which he narrowly avoided, nicking his ribs and causing a minor burn. Naruto gained some distance and passed through the hand signs, combination jutsu, napalm firestorm. Then, he spit out a stream of napalm at Minato. Then, he fired a small fireball, igniting the gel, with almost instantaneous effect, engulfing the entire area in flames. "You have to do better than that, Minato," Naruto said, smashing the kunai he was holding. "My father told me about his spars with you. You can only Hirashian to the marker on your kunais." Naruto saw a kunai coming towards his face and, in the next instant, kicked Minato with a roundhouse, sending the reincarnated Hokage into a tree. "I just need to time it perfectly and use my Sharingan, and then booma you're on your ass," he uttered. "I will admit to you, Naruto, you are very strong for your age," Minato said, getting his face back to normal. "You're not Cage level in power, but you are in strategy. I can overpower you, but you can just counter. When you were older, you would have been a great Hokage," he remarked. "During my training, I battled and killed numerous expert shinobi, including Danzo Shimura, Shisui Uchiha, Kakashi Hatake, and numerous others. Just so you know, I do plan to succeed my father as Hokage. It will be my ultimate form of retaliation against the village." Minato stared at Naruto, wide-eyed, unable to believe what he was hearing. The hated demon vessel ruling over the village that once shunned him. "It will at least give me a little satisfaction," Naruto said. "My former pupil Kakashi was killed by you." Naruto glanced at Minato and laughed. "How could you?" Minato cried out in a fit of rage. Naruto interrupted, saying, "That's not all, Minato. You probably should also know that your dead student Obito was the one who unleashed the Kyuubi on the village the day I was born." Minato's anger was then replaced with shock and disbelief. Poor Minato. "One student died in the line of duty, one died by the hand of your son, and one died by the hand of my father. Now that you have no living family members, son, or students, Minato, your legacy is all but gone." Naruto remarked, "No one will grieve for you once you're gone and forgotten." The words of Naruto struck Minato like a ton of bricks. Naruto was, in essence, correct. He was the one who brought Obito into the world, and Obito was the one who sealed the Kyuubi within Naruto, condemning him to a life of cruelty and seclusion. Now, Naruto was accountable for the destruction of the village that Minato was attempting to save. His legacy is one of noble intentions and terrible outcomes. Minato looked at his furrowed son and said, "I apologize for everything, just end it. My wish is that you will forgive me someday and that we can reconcile when we meet again in the afterlife," Minato said as Naruto's expression softened. He then performed hand signals for combination style, Firefox incineration, and blasted a stream of golden flames at Minato, who remained motionless. As Minato's body burned away, he was engulfed in flames. In a last move, he threw 6 of his pronged kunais at Naruto's feet, saying, "Naruto, look at my hands." Naruto glanced at Minato and quickly went through hand signals, seeing each one perfectly with his Sharingan until Minato was finished. Minato softly said, "Those were the hand signs for my version of the Hirashin. I hope you decide to use it, even if it's against me." When he was almost done burning, Naruto turned to face Minato and said, "I hope this can begin to let you know how sorry I am." Naruto started, "It might take years, maybe even my entire life, but maybe just maybe I can forgive you one day. But until then, I will hate you." "But time will tell," Naruto remarked, and Minato used his final moments on Earth to say one last thing. Minato said, "Goodbye, Naruto," as his soul disappeared and his body was destroyed. Naruto took the 6 kunai that Minato had left behind and placed them in his pouch. "I suppose that jutsu can come in handy in the future," Naruto remarked before disappearing into a whirl of leaves. Alongside Jiraiya and Kushina. When Kushina felt a hand touch her shoulder, she stopped running, which caused Jiraiya to stop and turn to face her. The two of them were running through the void they were in, trying to find a way out. Jiraiya asked, "Kushina, what's wrong?" And Kushina turned to face him, tears streaming down her cheeks as she spoke in a hollow voice. Minato is dead again, Kushina declared, causing Jiraiya to look sorrowful. I can feel that he failed to stop Naruto. My son killed his own father, Kushina remarked, taking a seat. I apologize to Kushina, Jiraiya said as she took a seat next to her. I would have raised him if I had known what was going to happen. Rather, I fled like a coward, Jiraiya remarked. This is our punishment, Jiraiya, said Kushina. Naruto, the village, as being here. This is all our sins catching up with us, said Kushina. Sitting in the emptiness, Kushina and Jiraiya were powerless to intervene in the conflict that would determine Konoha and Naruto's fates. Alongside Anko. With Anko and her poison, Orochimaru's years of experimentation, modifications, and body swapping had been for naught. He lay on the ground, panting heavily and bleeding profusely. With the Kusanagi clutched in her hands, Anko stood above Orochimaru, staring down at her battered and bloodied former sensei. Anko raised the sword and said, "Well, Orochimaru-sensei. I guess it's time to end this. And I want you to know this is going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me." With no other choice, Orochimaru closed his eyes and readied himself for the final blow. A loud clang startled Orochimaru, who opened his eyes to see the Naruto brat standing there, blocking the sword that was just inches from Orochimaru's neck. "I was about to kill him, what the fuck are you doing?" Anko yelled at the blonde boy. "What the hell?" Then, Anko stopped talking as Naruto gave her a fierce look. "I am your superior, I am your better. One more outburst like that and I won't live to see Orochimaru die," Naruto uttered in a frighteningly serene voice, admonishing Anko to watch his tongue. Reluctant to enrage the boy further than he already was, Anko withdrew. Orochimaru questioned, "Why did you stop her?" Naruto turned to face him and gave him a blank expression. Naruto turned to Anko and said, "Restrain him and take him to father's location. If he does not arrive alive, you will suffer the consequences." "Because I still need you alive for now," Naruto explained. With a nod from Anko, Naruto disappeared amidst a whirlwind of foliage. Gazing at Orochimaru, Anko withdrew a ninja wire and chakra sealing tag. "Okay asshole, hold still," Anko commanded, starting to restrain the hurt Sannin. Alongside Fu. When Naruto emerged from a swirl of leaves while Fu and Tsunade were seated and chatting in a field, he turned to face the two women who were now staring at him. With genuine surprise, Naruto exclaimed, "Wow Fu. I didn't think you could beat Tsunade and restrain her." Fu blushed and appeared shy. Fu stated, "Well, she kind of surrendered to me," as he looked at Tsunade. Tsunade remarked, "Fu persuaded me to surrender. I had no interest in this invasion to begin with." Naruto nodded and turned to face Fu. Naruto said, "Go to where Fugaku was when the battle with Lady Tsunade started. I'll be there waiting," before disappearing into a whirlwind of leaves once more. Fu approached Tsunade and assisted her in standing up. Tsunade gave him a doubtful look as Fu remarked, "If we fly, we can get there quickly." Tsunade remarked, "Look at me, I'm so much bigger than you. There is no way you can lift me up," to which Fu dismissed her. Fu wrapped her arms around Tsunade and spread her wings, saying, "Trust me, I can do it." Fu realized as she took off that although she could still fly Tsunade, it would take a little longer. "Hold on, okay," Fu said, and Tsunade tried not to look down because they were quite high up. Using Fugaku. Itachi, who was barely conscious after being severely beaten, was standing over Fugaku. As Itachi tried to speak on the ground, the words would not come out. As soon as Fugaku heard Naruto land, he turned to face him and said, "Is it done?" Naruto nodded. "Enough Itachi," Fugaku said, glancing at his former son. "Nothing you say or do can change anything." "Yes, father," Naruto replied, "now's the time to put an end to this once and for all." Tsunade emptied her stomach onto the ground and coughed just as he was saying that Fu had landed with her. Interspersed with breaths, Tsunade declared, "I am never flying again," while Fu, looking sheepish, scratched the back of her head. "I apologize for that," Fu said. A few seconds later, Anko arrived with Orochimaru still alive but in a restraint. "Good they're here," Naruto remarked, giving the order to line them up, as Anko and Fu positioned Tsunade and Orochimaru next to a now kneeling Itachi. "Now for the last few pieces," Naruto uttered. Alongside Jiraiya and Kushina. When a vortex appeared a few feet away, Kushina and Jiraiya were still sitting in the never-ending void. They both leapt up, expecting a fight to break out, but nothing materialized. Jiraiya hesitated but quickly followed Kushina as she dashed to the vortex and got sucked in, saying, "Let's jump through before it closes." When Jiraiya entered the real world, he was entangled in a web and collapsed to the ground. The web was sucking away his chakra as he struggled to free himself. He turned to see Kushina in the same situation, and they were standing next to Itachi, Orochimaru, and Tsunade. Acquiring Jiraiya's attention, Naruto said, "Thanks for that, Fu." "Now to begin," he said, positioning himself in front of the five-bound ninja. Kushina started, "Naruto, whatever you're going to do, don't." But Naruto stopped her with a wave of his hand. "I'm not a monster, I'm not. I could have killed you all and be done with all this, but I didn't. And do you know why? Because that's exactly what started this whole mess." Naruto inhaled deeply and said, "Wait until I say what I have to say." Hiruzen, Danzo, Itachi, and Obito had planned to kill the Uchiha clan as a preemptive strike, if you will. Now, 3 of the 4 were dead and the last one was standing in front of me looking like a used punching bag. Naruto shockingly declared, "I will spare you all. The world will be better off without you doing your experiments and molesting little boys." He then pointed to Orochimaru. "If I kill you all now, I will turn you all into martyrs. If I killed you all now, I will be no better than the ones who made my life a living hell." Now, filled with rage, Orochimaru spoke up, "You little brat, how dare!" But was cut short when Naruto kicked him in the jaw, breaking out a few teeth. Naruto continued to act as though the previous few seconds had not occurred, saying, "As I was saying, I'm going to spare your lives. I'm doing this to finally break this cycle of hatred that had begun because of a couple of fools and their plans." Jiraiya asked, not quite convinced, "You really going to spare us?" And Naruto shook his head. "You're just going to let us go," he said. "Of course not, that would be foolish," Naruto replied. "Jiraiya and Itachi will both have their chakra permanently sealed off. Itachi will also have his Sharingan removed and replaced with prosthetic eyes courtesy of Danzo's root experiments, according to Naruto." He next glanced at Tsunade. "I will not do so to Lady Tsunade. Her healing powers are useful and will be of great benefit to the village," Naruto said as Tsunade appeared startled. "We would be most grateful if you can start teaching medical ninjutsu like how you wanted to all those years ago but got stuck due to red tape. That way no more people like your brother or lover have to die needlessly due to a shortage of medics," Naruto continued. After hearing this, Tsunade felt something in her heart tell her that her medical program would be approved. "I can accomplish what I have always desired to do," she said, turning back to face Naruto, who was grinning slightly. Naruto said, "It's time we start making amends for the mistakes of the past, instead of running away from them." Tsunade looked down, then up again, her determination evident in her eyes. Shocked Jiraiya, Tsunade said, "I'll do it." "Tsunade what?" Jiraiya started, but Naruto choked him to silence him. "Remember that all of this is also due to you and your ignorance, Jiraiya," Naruto growled, drawing in a deep breath. "I want to kill you, Jiraiya, to exact revenge on the 3rd and 4th Hokage for leaving me as a child. However, I'm stopping myself from taking out my sword and severing your head," he said, glaring at Jiraiya and making the man recoil in fear. "But," Naruto continued, "while I was fighting Minato, he did something I did not expect. He apologized to me and asked that if one day I can forgive him. Now I'm going to give you an opportunity as well," Naruto replied. Jiraiya squinted at Naruto, asking, "What do you want?" Jiraiya became wide-eyed as Naruto said, "You keep up your spy network and help us defend the leaf. We are not expansionist, although we do intend to take the Sound Village as compensation for our trouble," Naruto added, glaring at a still enraged Orochimaru. "We need you to give us information about the rival villages. We want to know their troop sizes, logistics, hell what is the latest fashion for all I care. Just do what you did for Hiruzen Sarutobi and we will ensure that the village will be safe," said Naruto. Jiraiya sighed and said, "Okay, I'll do it, and not like I have a choice," as Naruto gave a nod. "The alternative is death, so yeah, you really don't," Naruto replied as he turned to Itachi. "You will be banished from the leaf, you will no longer have the Uchiha name and you will no longer have your chakra. So leave, find a place to live, get a wife and have kids, I don't give a shit, just don't come back," Naruto replied. Itachi gave a feeble nod, realizing he was defeated and had run out of energy. Kushina, Naruto said as he turned to face Kushina. While I do not consider you my mother, it may have been wrong for me to label you as one of those who made my life hell, Naruto continued. Before Minato returned to the spirit world, he said that he hopes one day I can forgive him for his mistakes. Kushina looked at him hopeful. Naruto then turned to face Kushina. Yeah, I might, I'll try, Naruto replied. I've held on to all the anger and resentment for so long that it's all I really know. But I will try to forgive him, although it may take a while. You, however, Kushina, I hope you can forgive me, Naruto replied. Kushina started to cry as she looked at Naruto. I may not have turned out how you wanted me to be, but I'm not a bad person. I'm not an evil bastard like Danzo. I saved a clan from extermination. I saved 2 Fey princesses. They both live in my house now. I made a brother in a boy named Sai. I saved Fu, who is a container like you and me, Naruto responded. Naruto remarked, I'm not a good person, but at least I'm not bad. Naruto, Kushina exclaimed, I would love you no matter who you turned out to be. Even if you hated me and your father with all your heart, I would still love you, because you are my son. I'm just sorry I wasn't around to help you while growing up. I'm sorry, Naruto, Kushina said with tears running down her cheeks. With a tear in his eyes, Naruto turned to face Anko and gestured for her to approach Orochimaru. As Anko moved behind Orochimaru, Naruto said, You don't have to apologize, Kushina. It's time for you to join Minato in the afterlife. After that, Kushina started to glow as her spirit started to emerge from her reincarnated body after Anko used the Tsunade to decapitate Orochimaru, ending his life. Kushina started to rise into the air, and Naruto spoke while glancing at her. Naruto whispered, Goodbye, mother. Kushina then grinned and turned to face Naruto. Kushina said, Goodbye, Naruto, before vanishing into a ray of light. Now, with sorrow in his heart, Naruto stood there, staring at the location where Kushina had just been. He felt a hand touch his shoulder and noticed a pitying expression on Fugaku's face. After feeling something grab his hand, Naruto turned to see a distraught Fu. Fu gave him a hug, which Naruto gave back. After the moment was over, Naruto turned to Itachi and the other 2 Sannin. Without saying a word, he made 3 shadow clones and hushed the 3 of them away. After taking hold of Fu's hand and stroking her with Fugaku, Naruto left Anko staring at the lifeless body of her former boss. 2 days later, hospitalized. While they were healing from their wound, Sasai's left arm was burned, and Gaara had multiple cracked ribs and a concussion. He and Gaara played shogi. However, Sai's sand armor could only do so much. As soon as the door opened, Sakura entered carrying a bouquet of flowers. Hi Sai, the embarrassed Sakura exclaimed, I brought you some flowers to make you feel better. With a slight smile, Sai took them in his good arm. Oh Sakura, Sai exclaimed as she saw Sakura's blonde friend Ino enter behind her. Thank you Sakura, I appreciate it, Sai said. When Ino said, Hey Sai, how's it going? Sai grinned in response. The blonde girl became confused when Sai said, I am recovering. But that's not what's important now. Sai then stepped aside so Ino could see Gaara, who was seated next to Sai. Ino, this is Gaara. Gaara, this is Inoa, the girl I told you about, Sai greeted Ino, saying as she glanced at the fair-haired girl. I am Subaku no Gaara. It's an honor to meet a beautiful girl like you, Gaara formally said. Salutations, Lady Ino. Gaara was repeating what Sai had said to him, which was that women like it when men compliment them on their appearance. The red-haired boy sitting across from her best friend's boyfriend had bandaged hair, and Ino was blushing. Oh my god, he's so cute, she thought to herself. That red hair and that tattoo on his forehead help out a lot too. Sitting next to Gaara, Ino remarked, Nice to meet you too, Gaara. So do you have any cool jutsu like Sai or? Reciting the passage from Sai's book, Gaara thought, a boy should show off his talent in order to gain a girl's attention. He then used his sand to create various shapes and figures that impressed both Ino and Sakura. Standing behind Sakura and Ino, Sai gave Gaara a thumbs up, thinking, it seems like our reading is paying off, as he kept observing Sakura and Ino's expressions of amazement at Gaara's ability to manipulate sand. Alongside Naruto. While Naruto was assisting Hinata and Hanabi in setting the table inside the Uchiha Manor, they decided to take advantage of the brief period of calm since the invasion had been averted and most of their issues had been resolved. Makoto suggested that they have a family meal, and Fugaku and Naruto accepted. Hanabi asked, "How's your hand, Naru?" And Naruto gave her a brief smile in response. Naruto flexed the appendage and said, "It's okay. I used it only a few times, but it really took a lot out of me. I got to train with it more." "Oh no, not so soon, right Naruto?" Hinata cried in concern, "You're still healing." Dismissively, Naruto remarked, "I'll be fine in a few days, Hinata. Once I'm back in fighting shape, I'll be able to start training to master it. And I'll be there to help you," Fugaku said as he entered. "After all, even I still need to master my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan." "It'll be a nice father-son bonding experience," Fugaku replied. Naruto remarked, "That would be nice, father." Walking out of the kitchen with Makoto carrying the food, Fu remarked, "Seriously talking about training now? Is that all you guys talk about?" She inquired. "Well, we need to begin to talk training as well," Makoto responded. "After all, with Hinata entering the new medical program, I'll need to train someone as well," she responded. Hanabi whimpered, "What about me?" Naruto gave her a head pat in response. Hanabi started to get stars in her eyes when Naruto said, "When you get older, I'll train you myself, okay?" Hanabi exclaimed, "Yay, Naru is going to train me," which caused Hinata and Naruto to giggle. Makoto said, "Okay, enough about that. It's time for dinner." Naruto glanced around as everyone sat down to eat and started talking. He noticed his mother, father, Hinata, Hanabi, and Fu all eating and chatting contentedly. As Naruto started eating, he thought to himself, "I have a family at last." After 2 weeks, Kumo, Konoha border. At the Konoha border, the 4th Raikage, was surrounded by 2,000 Kumo and 500 Taki shinobi. The head of Takigakure village approached and they spoke about how Taki had given Konoha the container of the 7 tails in preparation for an invasion of Konoha. They told about Konoha's battle against the invasion, which they won but suffered significant losses in. Taki then forged an alliance with Kumo to destroy Konoha and obtain their demon vessel. "Alright, folks, this is our moment. Kumo has been swept aside and humiliated by Konoha for far too long. That is going to stop now. Once we cross this border, we're going to march to Konoha and burn that damn village to the ground. And we're going to take whatever and whoever we want," declared, drawing applause from his troops. He yelled, "Let's go and put those Konoha dogs out of their misery," as he sped across the border. His soldiers started to follow him across the border, eager to exact revenge on Konoha for winning the previous war. Was running when he noticed something protruding from the ground. When he stopped, he realized it was a kunai, and as he bent over to pick it up, he felt his blood chill as he saw the triangular pattern. A red flash of light stopped the Kumo and Taki troops following it dead in their tracks. They then watched in horror as the 4th Raikage was beheaded right in front of them. Subsequently, the soldiers took up defensive stances while desperately searching for the object that had just killed the Raikage. 5 figures stood atop a nearby hill. Gazing down at them, Jiraiya remarked, "Those people are a bunch of fools. They should have looked in Otto if they wanted the truth, believing in rumors instead of facts." "Well, Jiraiya, what do you expect?" Tsunade responded. "You lie about the casualty reports and everyone and their mothers think we are on our last legs. Only 20 Leaf Shinobi died compared to the 75% casualty rate the Otto forces took," Tsunade responded. "That was due to a mixture of surprise and skillful planning, Lady Tsunade," Fugaku stated, although Naruto did contribute the most to the success of the operation. Adjusting the gourd on his back, Gaara remarked, "Indeed, your casualties would have defiantly been a lot higher if Uzumaki hadn't turned me and Fu to your side." Naruto looked at the white-haired Sannin and said, "Either way, good work, Jiraiya." He twirled a tri-pronged kunai and said, "It's nice to see you keep the end of your deal." Jiraiya crossed his arms. Jiraiya shot Fugaku a blank look and said, "I still think that Fugaku is a bastard. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let the leaf suffer even if it's under his control." "No offense. None taken, Lord Jiraiya. I still find you quite idiotic and insufferable," replied Fugaku. Naruto turned to face Jiraiya and said, "You did good. Now please go. There is no need for you to see this." Jiraiya nodded and turned to leave. "All right, then," Naruto said, inhaling deeply, "let's stop this before it starts." When 4 loud explosions were heard coming from the west, the Kumo and Taki forces were still searching for the person who killed the Raikage. As they turned around, they saw something that chilled their blood. Among them were the enormous Tenuki, Katsuyu the Slug, Susanoo of the Wicked Eye, Fugaku, and a most unsettling of all, a massive nine-tailed fox. With one half of the forces attacking and the other starting to retreat, Naruto, Fugaku, Gaara, and Tsunade started to ruthlessly destroy the invasion force, leaving a trail of death and devastation in their wake. Together with the deeds of Hashirama, Tobirama, and Minato Namikaze, the four strongest ninja in Konoha would go down in history and prevent any further invasion of the Land of Fire. Land of Rice. 24 years after Konoha's abortive invasion. Alongside Itachi. Now that he was finished for the day, Itachi strolled back to his little house in the Land of Rice. Following his chakra sealing and exile from Konoha, he aimlessly roamed the countryside. Even though Itachi had his chakra sealed, he was still quite powerful when he came upon a village that was being persecuted by bandits a year after his solitary journey had started. He helped free the town by killing the bandits with his exceptional swordsmanship and shinobi training. In return, the town gave him a small piece of land to live and work on. The remaining 23 years passed quickly. He married a local girl who would inherit her father's land upon his death, raised a family, and led a relatively contented life. Momo, his youngest child, greeted Itachi with a hug as soon as he opened the door to his small home. "Daddy, you're home," the little black-haired girl exclaimed, and Itachi gave her a hug in return. Then Momo released her hold and yelled, "Mama, Daddy is home." A woman with brown hair emerged from the kitchen and approached Itachi, planting a kiss on him. "Hey, sweetie, welcome home," Asa exclaimed. "How was your day at the field?" Itachi grinned in response. Itachi moved to a chair and sat down, saying, "Not too bad," with a slight smile. "Sasuke and Shisui are both at the market. Picking up some fresh vegetables for dinner like you asked. Those sons of ours will probably come back with the wrong ones again," Asa admitted, knowing, "Those sons of ours. They must share half a brain or something. Twins, I tell you. Identical in every way, including in the smarts department," that made Momo giggle. Itachi raised his hands in defense as Asa said, "Momo honey, could you help me prepare to begin cooking?" The young girl got up and walked to the kitchen. "And you, mister, go take a bath. I don't want a sweaty husband at my dinner table," Asa said. Itachi watched his wife walk off with a smile on her face and said, "Anything for you, my angel." Itachi stood up and started toward the bathroom, pausing briefly in front of a small table that held two pictures, one of his brother Sasuke and the other of his best friend Shisui. Itachi looked above the table and named his twin sons after the two to honor their memory and keep a small piece of them in his life. His ancient Anbu mask and sword, artifacts from a long-forgotten era in his life, were positioned above the table. Itachi sighed as he touched his ancient Anbu mask and said, "You call to me, but you always say nothing." Then Itachi turned around to get ready for dinner by washing up. Konoha, accompanying Naruto. After rubbing his eyes and realizing his bed was empty, Naruto got out of bed, put on his clothes, and left the room. Naruto said, "Morning, girls," as he walked into the dining room and saw Hinata, Hanabi, and Fu setting the table. Hanabi approached Naruto, kissed him on the lips, and grinned as they parted. The words, "Morning, Naru," were spoken by Hanabi, to which Naruto moaned and Hinata and Fu laughed. Naruto bemoaned, "Hanabi, you're my wife and an adult. Could you please stop referring to me by the nickname you gave me when you were 3? Hanabi responded with a smile before closing her eyes. Hanabi replied curtly, "Nope," returning to the table to finish arranging it. As Naruto approached Hinata, he planted a kiss on her cheek, which Hinata promptly returned. "Good morning, my love." Naruto greeted Hinata, saying, "You have work at the hospital today." Hinata nodded. "Yes, I have a class at 9 and another at 3, so I will be home around 6 or so today," Hinata replied. Since enrolling in Tsunade's medical program all those years ago, she and Sakura, Sai's wife, have developed into quite the skilled medical team. Naruto slapped her behind, causing her to eep and flush a shade of red. Something's never change, he thought to himself. Best of luck, honey. Fu was the last person Naruto approached. Fu grabbed Naruto and essentially forced her tongue down his throat. As Hanabi laughed and Hinata moaned at the display, "Sup, babe?" Fu chirped as she disconnected from Naruto, who was blushing as much as Hinata would have 20 years ago, as Naruto started to flail his arms around. Then, Naruto heard laughter coming from behind him. Turning around, he saw 3 kids attempting to hide behind a corner. Naruto grinned and said, "Hikage, Kikyo, Hideyoshi. What are you 3 doing?" Before bending down and throwing out his arms. "Come here and give your daddy a hug," he said, before the 3 kids tackled him. Upon the 3 kids getting off of him, he sat up and laughed. The 6-year-old Hikage was Hinata's second child. She shared her father's face but had Hinata's eyes and hair. She was usually very quiet, not as twitchy and nervous as her mother had been. The only child of Hanabi, Kikyo, was 6 years old. She resembled Hanabi almost exactly, but her father's hair was darker and more straight. The only child of Fu, Hideyoshi, was 8 years old. He shared Fu's mint green hair and eye color, but his skin tone was more like Naruto's. In addition, Hideyoshi was more mischievous than the rest of his siblings, constantly playing tricks on his father and making trouble. Hinata called and said, "Okay kids, it's time for breakfast, you can play with dad later." After taking a seat in a chair beside each of their moms, the 3 kids started eating. After taking a seat, Naruto started to eat, grinning at the sight of his spouses and kids. Naruto was thrilled when his father told him he wanted him to form a separate branch of the Uchiha clan, but when he revealed that Naruto would need to take several wives in order to bear children, Naruto started to feel anxious. Then, after gathering up his courage, Naruto asked Hinata and Fu for help, and each of them said yes. Hanabi, on the other hand, offered to help and cracked a few jokes about how it was similar to Jiraiya's books, which featured stepsister type romance. Not wanting his kids to read smut, Naruto made sure to tell Hanabi to hide those books from anywhere they could find them. Hideyoshi called out, "Hey dad," which attracted Naruto's attention. "Are you coming to my academy entrance today?" he asked, his eyes shining. Naruto grinned at his young son's eagerness. "Obviously," he replied, eliciting a smile from Hideyoshi. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he added, grinning as well. "And you too," Naruto said, glancing at Kikyo and Hikage. "I'm taking you both to Grandma Makoto's for the day afterward," he added, earning applause from the 2 girls. Hikage sighed as Kikyo exclaimed, "Yay Grandma. She can help me with my fireball jutsu. I want to make a fireball so big it makes yours look tiny." Kikyo huffed as Hikage complained, "Can't we just go there and enjoy the tea and cookies?" Hikage also said, "You always want to train. You never play or relax." With her arms crossed, she uttered, "Grandpa is very old, and I will be the one to take his place. I need to get strong so I can become Hokage after he steps down." Naruto laughed, grabbing her attention. Naruto said, "Sorry honey, but Grandpa wants to pass it on to me soon," which shocked Kikyo and the others. "Father said that in 2 years he wants me to take over." "So you're looking at the future 6th Hokage," Naruto continued, to which Kikyo immediately objected. Kikyo stood up and proudly crossed her arms, "Then I'll have to get stronger than you, and when you are super old I'll become Hokage." Hanabi yelled, "That's my baby girl," making Hikage and Hinata perspire at their antics. Hideyoshi declared, "And when you become Hokage, I'll be the new Anbu commander. I'll beat Big Brother and then replace Auntie Izumi and be your left hand," which caused Fu to look at him in confusion. Hideyoshi shook his head and said, "You mean right hand honey," to which Fu replied. He said, "Kikyo is a lefty," and Fu nodded, thinking that made sense. Naruto said, "Okay, everyone finish up and let's get ready to go," and everyone nodded in agreement. Ground of Training 4. The 13-year-old Menma Uchiha, the first child of Hinata and Naruto, was waiting for their sensei to arrive for morning training with his 2 teammates. With his long blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail and his blue eyes, he resembled Naruto quite a bit. His Sharingan, which is thought to be a new version of the fabled dojutsu, was blue rather than red, and nobody outside of his family or team knew that he possessed it. Shinji asked Menma, "How much longer is sensei going to be?" He thought she should have been here a while ago. The sole child of Sai and Sakura Haruno, Shinji had pale complexion similar to his father but dark pink hair and green eyes from his mother. He was an expert in both his mother's genjutsu and his father's inkjutsu style. While swishing sand around her finger, Inori said in a monotone, "Patience Shinji. She's only 5 minutes late. There's no need to make a big deal out of it." The sole child of Gaara and Ino Yamanaka, Inori received her mother's gorgeous face but her father's habit of using sand and red hair. Shinji recoiled when Inori moved in closer and cuddled up next to him. "What are you doing?" Shinji asked, worriedly peering around. "If your father finds us, he'll crush me like a bug." The same monotone voice of Inori's statement, "Father is overprotective," along with the addition that, besides father is weak against women. "He is scared of my mother, so if I tell her that he plans to kill you she will make him sleep on the couch," did little to ease Shinji's anxiety. Shinji whimpered, "That's not the point. I can't." He started, only to be startled when someone fell in front of the team. "You're still making out with your boyfriend Inori," smirked Hei's Uchiha, who was 21 years old. She is the aunt of Menma and his siblings and the daughter of Fugaku and Makoto, the Uchiha clan's heir. With her long black hair and white complexion, she resembled a young Makoto. Trained by both Makoto and Naruto, she possesses the same level of power as Itachi did during his time in the Anbu. "He is still quite scared of what my father will do if he finds out about our secret relationship," Inori said, nodding to her sensei as Hei's laughed. "Young love is such a lovely thing," Hei's remarked, grinning a little. "All right, 3 of you, we have a mission for you AC rank," she said, making them perk up. Menma inquired, "What is it, sensei?" As his curiosity piqued. "We got an escort mission for a bridge builder to the Land of Waves," she said as she took out a scroll. "His name is Inari and he has asked us to protect him from bandits while on his way back home and while he's building the bridge," she concluded. Her 3 genin appeared overjoyed to be embarking on a C-rank mission at last. Menma, eager to please his father, thought, a C rank. "I can't wait to tell father." Shinji thought to himself, "Finally, I can show my stuff and kick some bandit ass." Inori rubbed her chin thoughtfully and thought, a mission out of the village with Shinji. It would be perfect for making out since he's so scared of getting caught by my father. "We got a bridge builder to protect, so say goodbye and pack your crap," Hei said, and a hot one at that, before disappearing into a whirl of leaves. Be ready to leave tomorrow for a month, she thought to herself. Then, in order to get ready for their mission, Menma and his companions got up and began walking back to the village. Alongside Hanabi and Fu. Kikyo and Hikage were standing with Hanabi and Fu in front of the Uchiha manor when the door opened. Makoto, grinning broadly, opened her arms and said, "Hikage, Kikyo. Come here and give Grandma a hug," Makoto said, letting go of both of her grandchildren before approaching Fu and Hanabi. "My 2 lovely daughters. In law," she remarked, giving each of them a hug. "How are you 2? She inquired, to which Hikage replied. "Mom is working as a doctor," she remarked, and Makoto nodded and grinned. As the 2 girls applauded and headed to the usual location for their snack time with grandmother, Makoto said, "Come in, girl. The more the merrier. Ever since Hei's became a sensei I have been missing having girl talk." "Well then you are going to have to take home some cookies and tea for her then," she said. "All right, Mom," Fu said, scuttling past Makoto. Even as an adult, her vivacious nature remains. Makoto shut the door behind Hanabi as she came inside and joined her daughters and granddaughters for afternoon tea. Hanabi said, "I'd love to, mother." Alongside Fugaku, Gaara, Sai, Izumi, and Naruto. Naruto calmed his friend with red hair, Gaara, saying, "Everything will be fine. I'm sure Inori will be fine on her first mission outside the village. She'll have Hei's, Menma, and Shinji there." Gaara huffed in response. Gaara remarked, "That's what worries me. Inori and Shinji have gotten close, and I don't want that boy to even touch my daughter." He said, "If he does, I'll have no choice but to get rid of him," to Sai's amusement. Smile, Sai said, "Don't worry, Gaara. I've already given my son condoms in case they get intimate, so you don't have to worry about her getting pregnant." This made Gaara even angrier. "I'll lock my daughter up in the house. Where can I find a chastity belt to put on her?" Gaara exclaimed, getting a hard blow to the back of his head from Fugaku. "I'm too old for this shit," Fugaku exclaimed, running a hand through his graying brown hair. "Calm down, damn it," he yelled as Gaara stroked the back of his head. "You're a 32-year-old man. Act like a goddamn adult," he shouted before resuming his seat. Izumi tried to change the subject and said, "So, what did you call us in for, Lord Fugaku?" Fugaku turned to face the 4 people in front of him and started talking. "I want to name my son Naruto as the next Hokage in 2 years. And I want to know if I can count on you 3 to help me support him in this awesome duty," Fugaku said, looking surprised but not surprised at all at the fact that he had held the position of Hokage for 24 years. "Sure, I will," Sai said, grinning broadly as she turned to face Naruto. "Naruto is my brother in every way except blood. I will support him in whatever he needs." Gaara declared, "I will stand by Naruto. Without him, I would still be a mindless killing machine. I owe him for allowing me to come to Konoha and meet my wife, daughter, and new adventure," Gaara remarked. "I have always trusted Lord Naruto from the moment I met him," Izumi said as he looked at Naruto. "He has never led me wrong and I know he will be a great replacement and bring this village to new heights." Naruto grinned and said, "Thank you all. I look forward to working with each of you when the time comes." Fugaku also grinned and raised her voice. "I appreciate your time," Fugaku said, "but could you please leave me and Naruto now?" They complied, and he turned to leave. Fugaku then produced 2 cups and a bottle of sake. He filled them with alcohol and gave one to Naruto. "Son," Fugaku said, "without you, none of this would have been possible. I see a man when I look at you, not the dejected, broken orphan I found all those years ago." Naruto shed a tear at his father's words, then turned to face his adoptive father with a smile and said, "A man who rose above the hatred and prejudices of the village. A man who saved a clan from extermination. A man who will succeed his father and continue the legacy they built together," Fugaku said. "Thank you, Dad. You gave me everything and more when I had nothing. Nothing would have happened if you hadn't saved me. The die of my wives, my kids, my purpose, and Fugaku would have followed suit." "Long live the Uchiha clan," Naruto exclaimed, raising his cup in the air. Fugaku looked at Naruto and recovered, saying, "Long live Konoha." Both men downed their drinks and coughed, realizing it was stronger than they had anticipated. With a demonic smile, he said, "Now then, son," taking out a large book that made Naruto pale. "It's time for your training to begin." "Damn it," moaned Naruto, "I have to learn from him as an adult after all these years." Fugaku opened the book and slid it toward Naruto. "My apprentice, we still have a long way to go," Fugaku remarked gravely. Naruto said, "Let's get started, master," getting ready for his new position in the Uchiha clan's history.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.